Make a motion to call the meeting to order.
Motion to call the meeting to order.
Second.
All in favor, all opposed, call to order the City Council May 4th, 2021 meeting, which is being recorded and it is on Zoom. With that, before we get into anything, we do have a very special guest with us tonight, and it was a unanimous vote last meeting to invite the person in and have a proclamation given to them. So with that, I will turn it over to Councilor McGivern.
Mr. President, are we going to do a roll call?
Oh, I forgot that, Councilor. I was very anxious about the
thank
guest
you,
here. But first, we will call the roll. The clerk will call the roll to record attendance.
I'm
here.
Graney.
Here.
Hernandez. Leahy.
I'm present.
LeBron Martinez.
Here. Unmute.
Here.
Reese.
Here.
McGee.
Here.
McGee. McGivern.
Here.
Murphy.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Tallman.
Here.
Bacon.
Here.
So with that, I'll turn it over to Councilor McGivern to introduce our special guest.
Thank you, Mr. President. And it is with great honor on behalf of the entire council that I introduce this guest. Reminder that we, as you said, issued a unanimous vote a couple of meetings ago to issue a proclamation to a very special person. Just a little bit of background of why I filed that order was I told everyone I received a communication from the business manager of the Holyoke Merry-Go-Round, Maureen Costello, along with Sue Kelly, the executive director of the Children's Museum, and George Murley, the executive director of the Volleyball Hall of Fame, informing us that this person was about to retire. Now, this communication came in March, and I thought about it, and I said, you know, this is something that can't go by without some recognition. It's unfortunate we're not in the chambers to do this. It's unfortunate that we're not in the park to do something, because our guest is with us this evening is Charlie Lockspeach. Many of us know Charlie for different reasons, but I just want to highlight a little bit of his career and tie some loose ends together. And I was amazed when I learned some things about Charlie that I thought I knew everything about you, Charlie. But Charlie was the longtime supervisor at Holyoke Heritage State Park, the title that he retired with. He began his career back in October of 1989 and retired on April 10th of this year. 32 years of dedicated service. Now, when you hear a title, supervisor of Holyoke Heritage State Park, you think, well, he's in charge of maintenance, which he was. He was supervising a crew, which unfortunately budget cuts reduced that crew over the years. But a crew that took care of the park, he was there to book events. He was there to do a number of things that a supervisor of such a great park would do. The Commonwealth has a number of heritage state parks, and their purpose is to provide some passive recreation, but also to provide a venue to celebrate the heritage of the city for which they are in. And Charlie put his heart and soul into that over his years. Charlie was in charge of a visitor center that we all know, as you went into, was the house and home of a number of exhibits. Some of those exhibits that Charlie put together himself. And I want to read to you one excerpt from Maureen's letter, which goes, as a passionate supporter of the city, Charlie has taken considerable time in his role as the interpreter and communicator of Holyoke's proud history, particularly its industrial heritage, including its hydroelectric power system, paper and textile manufacturing industries, and railroad transportation system. He has researched and skillfully created dam and canal system models, illustrations, and displays, and has readily conducted walking tours so that learners of all ages understand and appreciate the city's remarkable and rich heritage. What more can you ask for? I often noted that in Holyoke, you don't have to be a native. You don't have to be born in Holyoke to be called a Holyoker. Hoyokers accept people as Hoyokers for their love of this city. Charlie takes that to a different dimension. Charlie has never lived in the city of Holyoke, but he is a true Holyoker. And I say that because Charlie has always promoted the heritage of this city, but has always promoted this city in a very positive way. Now, as a member of the directors at the merry-go-round, I often answer alarms when there's a little problem. Charlie would often beat me to the merry-go-round with his key because we gave him a key to the merry-go-round. He does similar things, even though the Children's Museum and the Volleyball Hall of Fame are not on the land, they are adjacent and their front doors open to Heritage State Park. Over the years, think about the number of events that have taken place that Charlie quietly oversaw and made sure that this spotless park, beautifully landscaped, was always in prime condition for when these events took place. Many of them, including my favorite, Celebrate Holyoke, Noche de San Juan festivities, the number of different family events, sponsored by the Holyoke Parks and Rec, the Big Rig, the number of different things that took place at the merry-go-round, the Volleyball Hall of Fame, and the number of concerts that took place, including recently the concerts by the Rotary Club. And Charlie didn't just stay at Holyoke Heritage Park. Even a week before he retired, he visited Donahue School to speak to the school children about the heritage of the park and to do some reading with those school teachers. And the principals of many schools have said this over the years. Charlie was always a welcome voice. I'm going to, Mr. President, ask you to read the proclamation, but I just want to finish with my favorite story of how much admiration I have for Charlie Lockspeach. And I've always called him the voice of Celebrate Holyoke. And think about those early days when the bands that came into Holyoke included, on Sunday afternoon, the Glenn Miller Band, Arlo Guthrie, Grassroots. Some nights, bands, that came in that were incredible. The Saw Doctors from Ireland, bands that had national, prominence. Charlie was almost always the voice that introduced them to Holyoke, introduced them to the guests of Holyoke, and introduced them with a little bit of their history. A distinct, very deep voice that was something that I always was proud of when he said, "Welcome to Holyoke," and introduced those bands. My favorite story is I was up in New Hampshire with my family running home because on the Saturday evening, the Beaver Brown Band was playing. And I had to hear my favorite song, On the Dark Side. I was walking down right through, after I parked the car, through the courtyard, 3 Plaza, and the band started. But right before they started, Charlie introduced them. And as I walked into the park, they immediately started playing On the Dark Side for me. Charlie, thank you for your voice. Thank you for giving the gift that you have of your knowledge of our great city and never being afraid to pass that knowledge on to so many residents who came into the park. You are an unsung hero, but you are my hero, and I think the rest of the city council agrees with me, one of the best voices of the city of Holyoke. Mr. President, if you could read the proclamation, I would greatly appreciate that.
And thank you very much, Councilor McGivern. Charlie, we do have a proclamation for you. Once again, everyone voted absolutely yes to get you this. We reached out to a former counselor and one who does beautiful handwriting, best I've ever seen. That's former counselor Patty Devine. And she absolutely said, writing this for you would be an honor. So from all of us, Patty Devine, be it resolved that the City Council extend its congratulations to you for 32 years of dedicated service at Holyoke Heritage State Park. And be resolved that the City Council extend its best wishes for continued success, and that this would be signed by the President, myself, and the City Clerk, Brennan Murphy McGee, this day, May 4th, 2021. Charlie, thank you very much for everything. I can't hand it off to you, but I promise I will bring it to you and get it over to you. But seriously, and everything, Joe said it best. Thank you for everything that you did for this city. And I'm going to turn it over to you if you have anything you would like to say.
Mr. McGee, I'd just like to thank you, council members, the city of Holyoke, the whole community for supporting the park through all the years since 1985 when it opened. and I'm thankful for the opportunity to have cared for the place and participated in the life of the community. And there's no city, town I would have rather served in for the last number of years of my career than Holyoke. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Counselor Lisi has her hands up.
Thank you, Charlie. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. I know that it was your job that, developed into a career to be the steward of the park, but you gave so generously so much more to that position. And so I just want to thank you. You taught me a lot about the history of the city, and also we're just always such a friendly face to see, passing through the park on any given day. So thank you for being the steward, and thank you again for just giving so much more of yourself to that career and that position. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Tallman.
Yes, thank you, President McGee. Thank you, Charles, for the work you've done for the city. You've truly been an ambassador for the city of Holyoke. Early on in my time volunteer work down with the Volleyball Hall of Fame, I was on the board of directors. I knew you then, and many events in the park that you really excelled at, and really showed really a determination of really the love for the city of Holyoke. And I really appreciate our little chats we had over the years, me being down there, and all the work you've done. So I'm really proud of you, and thanks. I wish you a very happy and healthy retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Tallman.
Counselor Leahy.
Yeah, hey, I can't say anything more than what everybody else has said, but serving on the board of directors of the merry-go-round, I served on the board of directors of the Children's Museum, and I'm the past president of the Volleyball Hall of Fame. We dealt a lot with Charlie. Charlie was always there. And one of the things that he is known for, and I hope that younger kids do today, is he shows up. He's always there, and he's always there to listen. And as Joe said, the place is it's ridiculous. It's just beautiful. It's in great shape. So Charlie, I wish you the best of luck. Enjoy your retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leahy.
Counselor LeBron Martinez.
Yes, good evening, all counselors. Charlie, you're going to be missed. Charlie gave many of my youth an opportunity to work in the summer through our Youth Works program, an opportunity to work where we have many of our youth today working at the state level, where from there they were, considered a state employee after being a summer hiree, which we still have some youth working at UMass, and others have become involved in the Appalachian trail work, where they're now even trainees of trails, which I appreciate because he was, he didn't hesitate to give me that chance for these youth that I gave him as a referral, and he took them on and showed them the ropes. So thank you so much. You will be missed.
Thank you, Councilor LeBron Martinez, and as our counselor in our ward, I really appreciate the work you've done for us.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Seeing none, Charlie, all the best on your retirement, and I will definitely get you that proclamation as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Wonderful night.
Good night.
Hey, Charlie.
Good night, Charlie. Thanks.
Good night.
Right.
Next on the agenda is we have a public hearing. We have petitions, sorry. We have petitions 1 and 2 are for the gas, electric, and for Verizon for Valley Heights area.
Good. Take up items 1 and 2 and
Take them
open
up
up
as
the public
a
hearing.
package.
Second.
Motion is take up 1 and 2, open a public hearing. Do we want to, I know we're taking up this up in public safety, Councilor Murphy. And I know Jim Lavelle sent us an email, but I know residents want to have a say. Do you want to do it in public safety, or do you want to do it just as a regular?
If I can, Mr.
Yep.
President.
Councilor Murphy.
That they were going door to door in the neighborhood to make people know what was going on, to clarify any misconceptions that might be there, and to make sure that the neighborhood was comfortable with what was going to happen. And he was going to report back if there was some issues, and I haven't had any
Okay.
concerns expressed. I don't know if you have or if any of the other counselors, but I know, I think that was early last week they were talking about doing that. So I would have assumed if there were problems, we might have heard some by now. So I would say probably just, you know, we do have it in committee. If you want to send it there before we have the public meeting, that's fine. I'm going to try to have a public safety meeting probably in 2 Wednesdays. I'm trying to get a time when it works. So.
Okay. So we'll just, so we'll leave it on the table to schedule the public hearing. And if anyone wants to, they can come in at that time. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
All those opposed? So that's 1 and 2. We're on to laid on the table. Item 3. Is there a motion for item 3? Not here. Counselor McGivern, are you speaking? You're on mute.
Sorry. Mr. President, I can make a motion to suspend the rules as a package to remove items 3 and 4 together.
Second.
Motion is to take up 3 and 4 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Mr. President,
And make a motion to pass the second reading.
Oh, hold on. Counselor Vacan was first. Counselor Vacan.
as a point of order, there's a late file that I'd like to take up with this since it's been taken off the table.
Okay.
It's relative to our rules.
We have a late file from Counselor Vacan. Motion is to go out of order to late file A. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
I,
All those opposed? So late file A from Counselor Vacan. Counselors, per our charter, we are required to have a 2/3 vote of the body for financial transfers. Therefore, the first reading of the two I'm doing it on the per Robert's rules, the motion to lay on the table cannot be used at a special meeting that has been called to address a specific motion to pass the 2 transfers from a special meeting to the city solicitor have failed to be passed according to section 49A. Transfers of the appropriation authorized for expenditure without appropriation, approval of the bill, payrolls and vouchers fiscal year. No sum of appropriations for a specific purpose shall be extended for any other purpose, and no expenditure shall prior unpaid liabilities which are payable out of such appropriations except to the accordance of the recommendation. Annual appropriations liabilities payable out of the regular appropriations to be contained therein may be incurred to signatures on the back of such bill and vouchers of a majority of the body of the committee having control of that. Thank you for your review, Counselor Vacan. That's the order, Counselor? Or the communication? Yeah.
yes, thank you. So the reference in there to Rule 43 is relative to a special meeting that's called for the purpose of accomplishing a decision by the body. And under that rule, it cannot be tabled because that is the whole purpose for which the meeting was called. And so the reference that for Robert's Rules of Order is out of our rules that require that if we don't have another reference calling how it will be proceeded, that we will follow Robert's Rules of Order. And so the reference that I used was a Robert's Rule of Order 3rd edition on page 97 that says in a special meeting, you either have to act to pass the matter or not pass it. The other rule calls for us to pass it with 9 votes. So to me, based on both our rules and the Roberts rules, these orders aren't properly before us at this time as a body. Thank you.
Counselor McGivern.
President, make a motion to pass the second reading.
Second.
Motion was to pass the second reading. Was there a second?
Second.
All right, so to pass the second reading, the clerk will call the roll.
President, under discussion.
If you vote, yeah, under discussion. Counselor McGivern.
Just a reminder that this is the two transfers to pay for the back pay for the city solicitor, Crystal Barnes, for when she acted as the city solicitor required by being the senior assistant city solicitor when there was a vacancy within the office. By history and by not just with Crystal Barnes, by with the former city solicitor, Mayor Alex Morse had appointed, we know that he did this more than once, where he lost the city solicitor and he let the eldest of the assistant city solicitors perform the duties of the city solicitor herself. The back pay should be that automatically should give them the salary of the city solicitor. We have not adjusted the salary of the city solicitor. It's the same salary. We're not asking to increase it. We're only asking that we recognize that this individual be given her back pay for performing those duties, which those duties and her performance, nobody has disputed over that period of time. She did so not only while she acted in her capacity to be our assigned attorney for both our ordinance committee meetings and the full city council meetings. She supervised all the members of the law department staff during that time, signed legal opinions, signed legal forms, and worked diligently with the staff to make sure that their responsibilities got done. Back pay is something that, the federal government recognizes, something that when it's due, you as an employer have to and should pay it, quite frankly. So tonight we've seen this, and I recognize the call to the charter and the call to the rules, but I see it slightly different. The language and without belaboring this point, when I first started back in 1980, our city clerk, Jimmy Shea, had 45 years of experience. When he retired, I said, Jim, is it worth reading the charter before I get going? And what would you suggest? And he said, Joe, you can't just read the charter by itself. When you look at the charter, when you look to understand the charter, you need to have in your other hand a copy or the ability to refer to Mass General Law. You need to be able to look at the special acts that have been passed by the city. You need to understand what Mass General Laws supersede any charter within the Commonwealth. And it's not everything that the Mass General Law can supersede, but there are general languages, general laws of the Commonwealth that do supersede language within the charter. This section of the charter I've read, it's to me a little bit confusing. At one point, it sounds like it's talking about bills from a prior year, which does require a 2/3 vote. Our other 2/3 vote requirement in the charter is when we pass two readings on the same night. That is why I asked to table this and refer it to the full city council, and the body did that at the special meeting. The special meetings have been called over the years. We have referred items to committee that eventually come out of committee back to the full city council. We have often used the special meetings to get something that needs to be done in a timely fashion. In this case, all of this originated at an origin of a regular scheduled meeting of the city council, until people started questioning which acting mayor can sign what. And we continually just get both from yourself, Mayor, when you were the acting mayor, Councilor McGee, and both from Mayor Murphy more recently, to get this back in front of us in a form that would be considered appropriate, even though we had it appropriately placed in front of us by Mayor Morse. So I recognize and I understand the questions, but I do see it different. This is in front of us, appropriately, legitimately. It should be a final vote by the entire city council, and whatever the city council decides will be the final outcome of this particular proposal. But I just ask city councilors to remember, we're doing this for someone who we know did the job since Paul Fair had stepped down and resigned. And we know that she did the job diligently because we've seen her at least once or twice a week in our own meetings. Thank you, Mr. President.
Counselor
Mr.
Bartley is
President?
next. Counselor Graney will be next. Counselor Bartley, then Counselor Graney.
Yeah, thank you. Chair, I'm going to call on you to make a ruling on Counselor. So before us, we had Robert's rules, which we've adopted under Rule 43. So the Rule 43 says we've adopted Robert's rules. Robert's rules is cited to you, says you cannot have a table in a special meeting. If you recall last Monday's meeting, it didn't feel right to me when let me just recall to the chair what happened. We had a quorum present. We made a motion was made to table. That motion went down 6-4. I hope we recall that. And then there was a cry and a call to have the Ward 1 counselor come to the meeting. And then if you recall, Mr. President, the Ward 1 counselor didn't know how to vote. She didn't know what we were voting on. And a motion to table, Mr. President, if you recall the rules, is non-debatable. In other words, no talking during that part. Do we all recall that happening? And yet, what do we have during that motion to table? We had the finance chair actually say, we don't have the votes, vote no, or vote to table. So we violated that rule. Now we're asking you to rule on this specific motion, Mr. President. That last meeting was out of order. You cannot have a motion to table. Consequently, this is not before us at this point. So I demand that the chair make a ruling one way or another, Todd. I mean, you make a ruling on it. You can't just ignore it and pretend it's not there. So either you're gonna adhere to Rule 43, or you're gonna say, based on another rule that you're aware of, Rule 43 does not apply.
Counselor Graney was
Well, you're
next.
not going to rule on it, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to go through the order of people who have questions, and then I will get to you. Counselor Graney.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that these two orders here, these two items are illegal. I believe that they should not be before the council tonight due to the history of what has happened with these two issues. And I certainly don't think that we should be even talking about them now. So obviously, I'm going to vote no on the two items, but I believe it's a violation of our rules. So these two items are moot as far as I'm concerned.
Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just respectfully ask for you to rule on the point of order. Thank you.
Yep. So first, with regards to the first comment on
President, may I talk on the point of order?
Yeah, go ahead, Counselor McGivern.
I mean, words were put in my mouth again, so I'd just like to clarify a couple of things about
Sure.
that meeting. Number one, when the motion to table was made, and the motion to table was, I thought it was 6-5. The motion to table, I guess, was 6-4. That passed. And that passed because a motion to table is a simple majority of those present. 6 and 4 is 10, 6 and 5 is 11, 6 votes passed the motion to table. It was at that point that Councilor LeBron Martinez came back in, and I asked for a quorum check because it was confusing because of Zoom and because of when some people have their videos on, some people have their videos off, who was actually there. And that's when you did a quorum check, and that's when Councilor LeBron Martinez asked her question, as our rules allow for someone to do a roll call vote if they come into the meeting and weren't there at the moment of the roll call vote. And the president can ask any counselor who comes into a meeting under those circumstances if they want to be recorded. And if I violated a rule, it wasn't intentionally. It was just, I was trying to get us to the point of which I thought we already were. The second point about Rule 43 is parliamentary procedure is great to use when you need it, not when it's to decide the outcome of a vote. Rule 43 in Robert's rules, there used to be the meters rules, is when all else fails with our rules, we go to Robert's rules. We have done this in a special meeting over and over again, whether it's referred to a committee, whether it's table it, whether it brings it back to the full city council. And again, as I noted, this issue has been placed before Councilor Murphy became our acting mayor by two former mayors, both yourself and Mayor Morse. It's here fairly, legitimately, to use Robert's rules to stop the final vote of 13 city councilors is just plain wrong.
Right.
I
So
got a point of order, Mr. President.
go ahead, Councilor Bartley.
Can you just explain to us, and I've only been here 9.5 years now, the way we have always had a ruling from the chair, the majority is the majority of the elected body, not the body present. Now that's been my 100% experience since I've been here. So I'm going to ask you to clarify that vote when it was 6-4 or 6-5 or whatever it was. I know there was a counselor missing. I can't remember who it was. Doesn't matter. But the way I've always understood the chair is that it's the majority of the body of the 13. So to pass on a majority, it's 7 votes. Can you rule on that for me, please? Before
So Rule 66, quorums, simple majority, supermajority definitions. A quorum of the council or of its committee shall consist of a simple majority of the entire membership. All votes of the council shall require a majority of the entire membership. So if you need a majority, entire membership. All votes of the council committee requiring a majority shall require a majority of those present. All votes of the council or any of its committees requiring a 2/3 vote or more supermajority shall require the same supermajority of the entire membership. So that's Rule 66. I think that's what you were getting
Just
at.
to put in layman's terms, is it 7 votes or 6 votes?
So for that one, since it goes to all votes of the council committee requiring a majority shall require a majority of those present. I think that's what Councilor McGivern was getting at. Now back to what was referenced in the sense of the vote was taken, it was 6-4, and a counselor came back into the chamber. I know we're on Zoom, it's not the actual chamber, but in prior times when we were in the chamber, if a counselor went out to go to the bathroom, get a cup of coffee, came back in and missed a vote, they were asked if they wanted to vote on that matter. That's what occurred when Councilor Born Martinez came back on. And as she stated, there was a personal reason why she had to step away. She asked what we were on. So therefore, by order, I have to tell her what we're on in order for her to vote. That's what occurred. That's what we have done in prior, times in the chamber. Nothing has changed here just because it's on Zoom. Although it was a 6-4 vote, which you could say that the majority of those who were present would have made it pass. Councilor LeBron Martinez voting made it 7-4. And the reason it was 7-4, I believe one counselor had to drop off. There was a phone or something issue came up. So with that, that's the ruling there. As far as for the late file, whether or not we can act on it, I believe we can. I don't see within the rules that says that just because it was a special meeting, we are barred from tabling or not acting. So therefore, to me, I would say that we can do it. If we don't believe that or doubt my ruling, we can always vote as a body whether or not my ruling was correct on this matter. Anyone further?
Mr. President.
Councilor Vacan.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like you're saying that our rule where we go to Robert's rules, if our rules are silent or if our charter and our ordinances are silent, you are setting aside for purposes of making this ruling, because Robert's rules is clear. It clearly states that if a special meeting is called, the purpose for which it's called shall not be tabled in a special meeting. And so I just want to clarify that, you are setting aside that rule that causes us to follow Robert's rules in this matter. Thank you.
My thing is, if you would like a legal opinion, you can reach out. We can suspend the rules to ask our legal department if we believe I'm in doubt as to my interpretation.
I would like to request a legal opinion. Thank you.
Right, so motion is suspend the rules to allow the law department to weigh in. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And I do believe.
Hi, Jenna here. That's
Jenna,
something
there.
Yeah,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? That's something I would have to look further into. I don't have that information in front of me.
Okay. All right. So with
Motion
that,
table.
Second.
the motion has been asked to table. It was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Chairs in doubt. Show of hands. If you're looking to table, please raise your hand so I can count you. 1, 2, 3.
Rainey.
4. I have 4. Am I missing anyone? Hearing none, then the table would not pass. Is there a second?
On the motion,
I would like to renew my request for a legal review regardless of the vote.
I'll second that.
So we would have a motion is to get a legal opinion in order to be able to vote on this. So that would require us to table.
No, I said regardless of the vote.
Oh, okay, regardless of it. Okay, I heard you now, Councilor Bacon. All right, so back to the original motion to Councilor McGivern. Is that what you're looking for?
just a clarification on that last legal part.
Yep.
What did we just do?
All it is asking for a legal opinion regardless of how the vote comes out.
Okay, thank you. I just like to ask a legal opinion too. If we were not to act on these two items because they were tabled here, could I file them as late files later this evening?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Can Councilor McGivern file these two orders as late files?
That's something else I would have to look into.
I'm Mr. President, I can file these as late files is the point I'm making.
Yeah. File as a late file if you want to do it that way.
I mean, we've already spent a half hour on this.
All right. So if you want, we can table these two and you can do how you want, or we can take a vote, and if it comes back that it wasn't proper, we'll be back to square one. Councilor
Mr.
Lisa.
President, thank you. I think it would be a good measure to table it and just get the legal opinion before acting. And I understand, Jenna's new at this point in time and doesn't have the information readily available. And so I just think that in good measure, it is prudent to table it at this point in time.
Motion on table.
Second.
The motion is table. It was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So the ayes would have it on that one. So 3
Point
and
of
4.
personal privilege.
Yeah, Councilor McGivern.
President, I'd like to file both these items, 3 and 4, as a late file tonight.
Okay. Can do that.
Thank
All
you.
right. So now we're on to 5, which is a petition from Mimi Maya for renewal of a secondhand license at 324 Appleton Street.
Take it off the table and deny.
Motion is to take item 5 off the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is to deny the application for renewal of a secondhand license for 324 Appleton Street. Councilor Murphy.
Yes, this is, and Councilor Sullivan brought this up at the last meeting, and I thought it was the correct address. I did check, and in fact, there is some legal proceedings taking place against this establishment, and I definitely do not think it is appropriate that we would renew this license. And by all indications, it's going to be a long time in the proceedings. So I would definitely say we do not renew this license.
Anyone further?
Mr. President,
Councilor McGivern.
I respect Mayor Murphy, and I'm sure this with good cause, but We need more than that.
Well, I'll give you what I know. I mean, I know there was a raid at 324 Appleton Street. It appears that there was close to $1 million or more of goods that were not appropriately attained. And there are other charges based on other businesses that this organization has run in other cities as well that are all being under federal investigation.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm satisfied.
All right, so motion is to deny. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Mr. President, I'd like to take 6 through 11 as a package and just leave them on the table to come up later when we get to the ordinance reports.
Motion 6 through 11 I can just stay laid on the table so we can skip over from now.
Yeah.
Okay. Off to communications would be item 12.
Comment?
Oh, did I miss that? I'm sorry. I'm looking at the bit. All right, public comment. Thank you, Councilor Bacon. I sorry I missed that. These. So to public comment, if we have people for public comment, let me go over to the attendees. First is Kevin Jourdain, former city councilor. Kevin Jourdain, welcome. Remember, for those who are talking maybe for the first time here, we open up the public comment. It's 1.5 minutes, of which I'll let you know around the minute mark. Please state your name and your address, and we can go from there. So first is Kevin Jourdain.
Okay, great. Mr. President, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, no video on these, by the way?
Yeah, there's video.
Let me check. You're muted. But
okay.
There you go.
Yeah, great. They had to adjust my settings, apparently. I also wanted you to be able to see here, too, who's joined me, and that is Odette Zaplicki of 8 Ivy Avenue. So I just wanted to state my name for the record before I begin. It's Kevin Jourdain, 18 Raymond Avenue, Holyoke, and I'm joined here by Odette Zaplicki of 8 Ivy Avenue, Holyoke. So I'll make this brief because I know I'm very time limited. There's 2 people relative to item number 30B on the agenda. There's 2 people that have a handicap sign on Ivy Avenue currently. Joselito Negron Velez of 9 Ivy Avenue, Odette Zaplicki of 8 Ivy Avenue. In 2002, I, as the counselor, put the first sign on the east side of the street. In 2007, I added 2 additional signs because of need on Ivy Avenue. There was no issues for 15 years with this sign. Then in September of 2018, the Ward 6 counselor filed an order, which you'll see it worded on your agenda, to remove both handicap signs on the east side, including what would now be the one for Mr. Negron Velez completely, and to also move by 40 feet the sign that currently is held by this 80-year-old elderly handicapped woman. Would have made her have to walk an additional 40 feet. So when you hear things like, I spoke to everyone and I did my homework on this, this order originally stated that they had spoken to these people, never spoke to these people.
You're at a minute, just to let you know, Kevin.
Would have removed one of their signs and would have taken the other person to move 40 feet down the street. This has been a terrible, outrageous, no notice harassment of seniors and handicapped people. There was 8 photos currently been provided to the council showing that the 3rd space is being regularly used.
We are at that time.
And well,
just to finish up,
President,
to finish up.
Okay, I'm almost done. The half the time, visitors, other people on the street, future residents could need this 3rd sign. and it will create a musical chairs against these two individuals to lose their space. This is outrageous, and why would the council want to do something so cruel to these two handicapped people? This order should be
Time is up, but we can't say,
and
we
these
can't
people
attack
should
the
be
council.
left
You know
alone.
that, Kevin. Come on.
These
Thank you.
people should be left alone. And I ask the council to give it leave to withdraw. Thank you.
Next is Don Vonner. Am I saying that correctly?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, just name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Don Vonner. I'm representing Verizon. I was here to speak to number 1 and 2 on the agenda.
Oh, yeah. So so Don, just to let you know, what we'll be doing is we'll be having a public hearing for that at our next city council meeting to allow the public to weigh in and to get your input at that time, as well as the Holyoke Gas and Electric.
That's all I wanted to ask is what actually happened to it. So, so when do we know when that next meeting is, or when I can put that on my agenda?
It will
May
be
18th.
May 18th.
May 18th.
Yep,
Very good.
At 7 o'clock.
That's all I had. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Next, I see Dennis Sanchez. Dennis, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I just look at the background. You guys kind of answered my question. I was one of the homeowners from 16 Valley Heights, and I'll be looking forward for that May 18th meeting.
So May 18th at 7 o'clock, we'll take that up and we can go over it then.
Sure. I just wanted to, and also like the gentleman that spoke earlier, he said that he hasn't heard anything from anyone and like no one's against it or anything. And I'm just here to say that there's 11 to 12 of us that are against it. That's all I wanted to let you guys know. And hopefully May 18th, we can come to an agreement or whatever you guys think is best for us.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Good to see you, Dennis.
See you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is there anyone else for public comment? Anyone on the phone, Jeffrey, that we can't see?
If somebody is on the phone and wants to speak, you would hit *9 on your phone.
Hearing none, we'll go back to communications. 12 is from the acting mayor reappointing Richard Ahlstrom from 215 Madison West to serve a 3-year term for the Historical Commission for the City of Holyoke.
Receive into public service.
I
make a motion to approve it.
Motion to receive and approve, or second Jimmy's.
Second.
So hold on. So one was to send a committee. I didn't hear a second. The next one now is to receive and approve. There was a second. Under discussion, Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I have okayed this one, and I've okayed a few others. I've actually asked now, just so I get more information. I would love to hear what these commissioners, as they come on, what their experience has been. Do they have any suggestions on how we can make it better? So I've asked reappointments, and so far they're all getting themselves scheduled to come in and meet with me for 15 or 20 minutes, talk about their experience, talk about what they might do. So in this case, I mean, I've got a few that I've done and I'm comfortable with them, but for future, just know that they're all agreeing to come in. They want to talk about the commission that they're on. They want to offer their thoughts. So I'm very pleased to be able to get their information, and maybe we make some suggestions on making things a little bit better. So, but in this one, I hope we just will pass this reappointment.
So motion was to approve the appointment. It was seconded. Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I mean, it's our experience. If the counselor wants to hear from this person, the nominee, then, I mean, generally we respect the counselor who wants to refer to the committee. So I'll just refer to the ordinance chair. And if I may, to the chair, if the ordinance chair wants to send us a committee, then I think it should go to committee. So I mean, we always do that. I mean, if there's one counselor wants to hear more, we always allow that to go through instead of just gaveling it through on the floor. So I guess, I mean,
no, I'm comfortable with it. I didn't realize it was a reappointment, and so I'm fine with it.
Good enough.
Thank you.
All right. So if there's anyone further, motion is to reappoint. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 13 is from Acting Mayor Murphy, that letter reappointing Preston Macy of 72 Shaman Ave to serve as the Republican member of the Board of Registrars, 3-year term, which will expire March 31st, 2024.
Motion to receive and approve the appointment by the acting mayor.
Second.
Motion is receive and approve. Under discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? 14 is from myself. This is with regards to temporary appointment of the city solicitor for the city of Holyoke. Dear Attorney Ball, this letter represents the notice that I, acting Mayor Todd McGee, do hereby appoint you as a temporary solicitor for the city of Holyoke. The position will be paid under DH-24 designation, DH salary schedule. The salary during this term will be $80,000. The temporary appointment will start May 3rd, 2021. Thank you for your willingness to serve the city of Holyoke. With this, I think because it's an acting mayor position, you'd have to motion.
Motion to
approve.
receive and approve the appointment.
Second.
Second.
Motion
But
be.
can I-
Refer to Committee of Public Service.
I'm-
Hold on. Counselor Vacan has the floor. Counselor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to clarify one thing, and I'm totally in favor of this appointment. Many of us on the council have worked with Attorney Ball. My only question was, I think there's an order before us to transfer monies out of a fund to cover the salary. And so we have the ones that are under debate and review, and then we have another order to transfer money in, which makes it look like we don't have enough money in that account to pay this appointment as we sit here right now. So I'm just a little confused about that.
Yeah, I can explain. So the order was to get someone in there to start as Crystal left, which her days are, I think she is now gone because it's March, May 4th. So therefore, in order to get someone in right away, we had to look at the salary. The salary was at, I'm guessing again, because it's been a few weeks, at 75 or 76. But you could get it up to about 83. There was not enough funds in the account or in other accounts. So Attorney Ball agreed that 80,000 not going to the Supermax would be sufficient. And therefore we'd have to look to another account to then help get it to that 80 mark in order to then bring her in starting, was supposed to start May 3rd, but this somehow missed the agenda. My fault. I'm not sure why, but I apologize for that. But if we approve it tonight, it gets her to step in tomorrow. Go ahead, Councilor Vacan.
Thank you. I appreciate that explanation, but I would note that if we don't transfer the monies out of that line, we have the monies in the line for her compensation. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Murphy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just, and again, we need to, I hope we adopt this, and I hope we adopt the transfer of both of those so that she will be starting tomorrow morning. I know I said May 3rd, but after not having this approved, we agreed that it would be best to wait to May 5th and make sure the council has approved it before she started. So the goal is that if we pass this and we pass the $689 transfer from my office, that everything would be all set according to what you had negotiated with her, and she would be starting tomorrow.
Yeah, and Councilor Vacan, just so you know, this is what was recommended by the auditor. That's why we filed it this way.
Right, because of how the orders have been filed. I understand. Yes.
Yeah, but if understandably, since she's only going to be there for the several months and then transition out, if there is money left on the line, then that it will stay there. It doesn't leave.
Right,
Councilor, okay, sorry. Councilor.
My point was, it's considered encumbered because the orders are before us. But if we don't pass those, we would have had the money in the line to pay her up to the supermax or anywhere between the 80 and the whatever the top end is. That's the point I was making. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I agree with that last comment by Councilor Bacon, but I want to speak in favor of this. Mr. President, two things. One is since I've been on the board, Attorney Ball may have been here for a very, very brief period in 2012, but I don't recall ever hearing from her or meeting with her. But that's prior to the merry-go-round of appointees we've had in the law department under former Mayor Morse. I think the former acting mayor deserves a tremendous amount of credit for in the former acting mayor's short 2 or 3 week tenure. I don't recall what it was now, to get some really important nominees before us. And I think we've, I don't want to say any names because they're going to come before us later on, but Attorney Ball is a very respected member of the bar. She's been practicing law for years. She's already experienced in this position under former Mayor Pluta. So to have somebody with that kind of gravitas and experience walk in the door, and then we just heard from the acting mayor, I know we have a potential motion to refer it to committee, and that's generally what I would do, and I just admitted saying that's what I would do. But in this one instance, I would hope that we won't have to have that motion, and that we can have Attorney Ball start tomorrow to help the city move forward. Thank you.
Councilor McGivern, then Councilor Leahy.
President, I made the motion to amend and refer to the Committee on Public Service because I have a couple questions. I don't question the character or the ability of Attorney Ball to perform as city solicitor. I am a supporter of what she did when she was city solicitor. I'm a supporter of her integrity, but there are questions that should be asked.
Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to go against what Councilor Bartley had said earlier because I don't think we all do everything the same way, and this is a good example of that. I too, not only a big fan of Councilor Ball, ability to handle things so well for the city of Holyoke, and her knowledge. I mean, it would be hard to get somebody even better than her. So I'm all in favor of passing this tonight. Kind of what to Councilor Murphy's point is what I like what he's doing is if he has questions, he's bringing them in individually or calling them up on the phone. And I can't say this against Councilor McGivern because he goes to every single meeting, but there's so many people that ask for things to be going to committee and they don't show up to the committee. And so it's not the right process to handle that. But I will support Councilor or Attorney Ball tonight, and I think you'll be much better shape for it. Thank you.
Just as a reminder to everyone, the reason this came about is Crystal Barnes did announce to us that she was leaving at the end of April, and hence it is now gone, of which we only have one person in the whole legal department. Just there's no admins, there's no paralegals, there's no other attorneys, there's just one. Therefore, bringing Attorney Ball in, we did vet every potential conflict or issue that might be out there. I did run to the auditor to make sure for the transfers. I understand what Councilor Bacon's saying. We went through this as quick as we could to get you something to put someone in that legal department, one with the experience, as well as to help out right away. And then ultimately, as we have always said, the outside counsel fees are just going crazy. Attorney Ball stepped in when she was the city solicitor and was able to cut those. I think at one point in time it was like $800,000 down to $200,000. So I know it's a short-term thing. She has the ability to do it based on the way the COVID virus has impacted everything else. and we have vetted it, and I know she has gone, Councilor Murphy as acting mayor, and they have discussed everything to make sure that since I have gone, that everything is still on track the way it should be. And Councilor Murphy / acting mayor has done that. I'm not trying to push this through to tell you what you have to do. I'm just letting you know, if we don't approve someone tonight, you only have one body in the entire city legal department who's on tonight doing a city council meeting that has to wake up early to get back in the office. We need help. I've said this before. There are departments within the city that are on triage right now. They need help.
Mr. President.
So with that, Councilor Graney and then Councilor Lisi.
Mr. President, we have an opportunity here tonight to appoint a qualified legal attorney to as our city solicitor in the legal department of Holyoke. Let's move on and let's get it done. It's timely that we do it. The acting mayor approves, thinks it should be done. I think it should be done, and I think the majority of people in Holyoke want to have a city solicitor acting to take care of the legal issues in the city of Holyoke. Let's move on and let's do it. Thank you.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I first want to note, I want to thank our Council President McGee for finding folks on a really short time frame to fill in for these positions. I'm happy to move the appointment this evening. I think that we do absolutely need to bring in the structure and expertise of someone who's been our city solicitor in the past. I also don't believe that making the appointment tonight needs to be, mutually exclusive to actually sending it to committee. And if there's questions that councilors have, and I do think that the public, enjoys the ability to hear the questions that councilors have. And so I think it would be fine to approve the appointment and send a copy to the Public Service Committee so that we can have that discussion in front of the public and raise any questions or concerns, or just, have Attorney Ball speak to us and therefore the public through that committee process. Thank you.
Councilor Tallman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would approve passing this tonight. I think it's the law department is dire need. The city of Holyoke is in need. And I worked with Attorney Ball in the past during my career as a city councilor, and I think this is a fine appointment. Thank you for bringing somebody there. With one person in that department, and it's definitely a vital department in the city. Not only having her there for the different cases, but also to help try to fill in some of the gaps that we have in some of the other departments that we could try to get moving. And the city deserves it, and I believe that this is pretty much should be done tonight. Thank you so much.
Anyone further? Councilor McGivern, you had a motion to go to committee.
My motion was.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I thought you were asking. Yes.
Yeah, but I didn't hear a second is what I was going to say. So
I'd like to make the motion that we approve the appointment and send a copy to committee.
Second.
Motion would be to
Under discussion,
approve.
Mr. President.
Yeah, under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
I mean, it's been said more than once that if a counselor has questions on a new appointment, that a counselor would be given the opportunity to ask those questions in committee. Am I being denied that right?
Right now, I wouldn't say you're being denied the right. We're going to have a copy sent to public service to allow the attorney to come in to answer your questions.
I'm not going to ask questions once Attorney Ball is appointed solicitor. The purpose of having an appointee in that we confirm is to be able to ask questions prior to our vote. So I've said it. I understand.
So the motion was to
changes quickly around here, doesn't it?
Approve the appointment with a copy to public service to bring in the attorney to answer or answer questions from anyone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I'd say the ayes have it. Next is 15 from the clerk and from our city admin, which is the minutes of April 20th, 2021.
Receive and approve.
Motion is receive and approve. Any changes, any requests, any amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 16 is from the school department or acting receiver superintendent, Anthony Soto.
Receive.
Motion is to receive. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Mr.
opposed?
Mr. President,
Council Graney.
I'd like you to read this into the record. I think that this letter is, very accurate in the beginning about the horrible act of Officer Derek Chauvin in Minneapolis. It was absolutely deplorable, horrible, and he was sentenced to what he deserves. However, there's a couple of things at the bottom of the letter that I'm a little bit concerned about in our public school system. Namely, the last dot in the letter where it says establishing equity indicators for accountability of Holyoke Public School employees, students, and partners. I don't know what that means. I'm not sure what equity indicators are. I'm not sure what equity is. And the letter also addresses systemic racism, racial fatigue, systemic racism, institutional racism. Those are things that we need to get out on the table, and we need to discuss if these things are happening.
Would you like to receive this and resend it to the joint committee to?
Yes, I think that would be appropriate.
All right, so 16 is to receive and send to the joint committee to have the receiver come in. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes would have it to the joint committee. 17 is from David Conti from the Holyoke Water Department regarding the American Rescue Plan.
Receive, send to public service.
Receive, would this go to,
Second.
okay, to public service? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 18 is regarding the census from the Secretary of State.
Receive and send to DGR.
Motion is receive and send to DGNR. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 19 is a community outreach meeting for Riverside Cannabis.
Receive, send to ordinance.
Ordinance.
Motion is received, sent to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 20 is from the Thomas J. O'Connor report first quarter for January to March.
Receive and send to DGNR.
Receive and send to DGNR. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 21 is the Fire Commission
Be received.
for minutes of March 18th, 2021. Motion is received. All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? 22 is from also from the Commonwealth Secretary of State, the local process for
Receive,
re-precincting.
send to DGR.
Yeah, it's the DGNR as well. All those
Can I
in
get a hard
favor?
copy of that, Mr. President?
Yeah, Jeff, can you send a hard copy to everyone, just so they have it?
Yes, I can.
All right, thank you.
23, 24, and 27 as a package, please.
23, 24, and 27.
They're all renewals for secondhand license.
So motion is to take up 23, 24, and 27 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Mr. President, point of
23.
order. Mr. President, point of order.
Sure.
Just in reference to Councilor McGivern's last statement about, I have hard copy of the re-precincting in Massachusetts, so you don't need to send me a copy, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so 23 is a petition from David Greenberg for renewal of a pawn license at 448 Appleton Street. 24 is also from him for a renewal of a secondhand license. And 27 is the Echo ATM secondhand license at the Holyoke Mall.
Receive
All these
and
are for
approve.
renewal.
Receive and approve the grant with the renewals pending all municipal fees and taxes are paid.
Second.
Okay. So motion is receive and grant the special permits. So with this, the clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 23, 24, and 27.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Rainey,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yep.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
For your vote, you approve those three.
25 and 26 as a package. They're both
Motion is to
new.
take up 25 and 26. All those
Second.
in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 25 is also Echo ATM for a new secondhand license at 2261 Northampton. And another one, 26, for a secondhand license at 250 Westfield Road.
Received, sent to finance.
These are to finance. All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
And 28 and 29 is a package.
Motion to take
Second.
up 28 and 29 as a package. All those in favor? All
Aye.
those opposed?
Aye.
29 is a petition from Hamden Paper, a modification of a special permit at 28 Appleton. And then petition from Hamilton Paper, special permit application for 100 Water Street.
Then to ordinance.
Ordinance.
Both to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Excuse me, Todd.
Yep.
Sorry, those need to be changed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Tobacco
that's,
voting.
yeah. Sorry. This is Riverside?
No, Rise.
Rise. Sorry, Rise.
Oh, there's the typo you're saying?
Yeah, there's a typo. So on here, it says on here for 28 and 29, it says Hamden Paper. It really is Rise.
Make a motion and amend that to say rise.
Second.
And that's for 28 and 29. So motion is to change it from Hamden Paper to Rise Holding Inc. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Now to send those to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So those two to ordinance. Okay. President's report. I actually had something typed up, but I, for the life of me, cannot find it. So I'll just save it for the next meeting.
Excellent.
So we'll move on to committees.
Could I just, Mr. President?
Councilor Murphy, Acting Mayor Murphy. I got all these
All
titles.
right, I would like to update the council and so that you are aware of what's going on as much as I can. I'll try to be as quick as I can. Just so you know, just tomorrow and Thursday, I'm interviewing some candidates for personnel director. So we're moving on that. But I'm still working on finalizing the budget. I'm gonna have to call a special meeting probably next Wednesday. I'm hoping to get it done Friday. I might be able to call it Tuesday. So if you would, I would appreciate it if you could try to leave Wednesday open as a possibility. I just want to quickly go over, we did make a few tweaks on the community development, but I think what ended up happening improved it. We were able to fund $100,000 for the sanitary sewer and storm drain rehab, which will, then we will have a reprogram another 100,000 that'll come in the fall. That allows them to be inspected, and then they will line as many of them as they can. The lining creates a life of at least 50 years. So by doing that, we're starting to move. That's approximately a $7 million expense somewhere down the line. We're trying to avoid cave-ins and things along that lines. We were also able to expand the facade improvement program by an extra 10,000. And just a couple of things, because we were able to transfer money from the COVID monies to food equity programs, I was able to put 45,000 into the elder disabled meals program instead of 20,000. So that's hopefully going to add another 15 or 20 people getting meals. We were able to also increase the Boys and Girls Club tutoring program, the YMCA program, the Safe Neighborhood, and the Homework House. So they all got additional funding. And Margaret's Pantry we were able to go from 25,000 to 30,000. And lastly, the Farmers Market, we were able to get that funded for one more time. We will also be reprogramming money very shortly to take care of the YMCA's HVAC system so that they would be in better shape for the summer. I know you probably heard we did have a business meeting. There were a lot of good things. Councilor Tallman and Councilor Sullivan, thank you for coming. And I know there was a lot of good feedback, and we're working, both the department heads and I and some business people are working on trying to streamline the process. I did communicate with Cinder about the budget and some things, and I am trying to work out, and we have gotten some information. So I just want to make you aware, I am trying to figure out a way that we can balance the sewer fund, which she indicates is a very strong recommendation, and do that, but also use some funds that would give people, defer some taxes so that we aren't going to have a sewer fee increase of a substantial amount and a tax increase of a substantial amount. And her early comment to me is that is a sound, and that will help our credit rating, not hurt our credit rating, and also put us in a situation, as long as we are not doing it continuously. Lastly, although I had a few other things, but lastly, June 1st is our targeted opening. June 1st is our targeted opening to get back to City Council chambers, to get the City Hall and City Hall Annex and other operations going. Senior Center and Library look like we will be doing June 7th with some limit, because of capacity limits. We have to do a little bit more registration there. But we are looking, and in the council chambers, they are looking, and maybe Jeffrey, I know they were going to meet with Jeffrey today after they met with me, but we're looking at getting a TV module, large TV module that would allow people to still attend our meetings by Zoom, even though we're in the council chambers, and would set up, we wouldn't have our bleachers in the back. It would be 12 separate chairs spread apart 6 feet. So that people coming in, if we ask someone to come in, and it wouldn't be for the general public at this point, it would be for people that we're asking to come in and offer their thoughts and comments. So that unless there's a major backlash in the next couple of weeks, that's the goal, June 1st. And I will try to keep you all updated on that. And there'll be other things, but it's been interesting.
You're doing a great job there.
Great job. And thank you for what you're doing. I know it firsthand, so thank you very much. And thank you for the report. That's what we needed. With that, we're on to reports and committees. So 38, Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that the zoning on west side of Main Street from the northerly side of Sargent's to the southerly side of Hammond Street be changed from business highway to business central business. Recommended that the order be adopted.
Receive, adopt the committee report, and pass the first reading.
Motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. This was filed by Councilor Murphy, and basically it's looking to change the zoning from the west side of Main Street to the northerly side of Sargent Street, southerly side of Hamilton Street, so that one block from business highway to BC central business. And the reason why this seems to be a favorable move in the zoning is because the setback requirements with business highway are overly burdensome and restrictive for this area. It is a downtown business walking area where there's streets and storefronts. And so the idea is that if we have the BC central business, it creates the ability for a denser sort of development projects to happen in this area. And so we see this as an enhancement to the neighborhood and to the individual properties that were noticed. I could tell you the individual properties if anyone has questions about it, but it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different properties. They were all duly noticed. None of the property owners came out to weigh in either favorably or in opposition to the change. However, I'll just restate that the committee thought that this was a favorable change both for the property owners, and we understand that that's subjective to some extent, but certainly favorable to the city and the ability to create a downtown business district in this area. If Councilor Murphy wants to add anything else, he's here as the maker.
Councilor Murphy.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. President. I mean, we have 2 vacant lots there now that really cannot be built on unless we make this zone change. It just, the restrictions are so prohibitive that nobody's going to come and try to build something. The 90 by 30 foot lot would end up giving you about a 40 by 10 foot building, and it just not going to work. There's also 2 other things. There's some other buildings on that street, on that side, that could potentially have to come down. But my hope is if we make the change and some of the other vacant lot areas get investment, that maybe there have been some people talking about doing things, but I haven't seen any action, but maybe that would spark some additional investment in some buildings that need to be renovated and solicit businesses on the first floor and apartments above. So it would really return, if we were successful, it would return that part of Main Street back to what it originally was when I was growing up.
All right. Seeing no one further, motion is receive, adopt, and pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Motion would be to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No. And motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the change from BH to BC.
Anderson Burgos. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Rainey,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez.
I think she's having some issues with her device at the moment.
Yes, I'm sorry. My phone is about to die. I'm trying to get a charger. Thank you.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon.
No.
And Brenda, just so that it's clear, I think that you heard Councilor LeBron speak when you called my vote, so we were both yeses.
Okay. 12 yeas, 1 nay.
With your vote, your proof should be changed. 30B, Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that the handicap space on Ivy be condensed to 1 space in front of 8 Ivy be located on the east side of the street, 90 feet north of Dwight Street. Have considered the same, recommend that be adopted.
Receive the committee report and pass the first reading.
Motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion.
Thank you. This was filed by
Lacey.
Councilor Anderson Burgos. I'll give the committee report and then defer to him as the maker. So on Ivy Avenue, there are presently 4 handicap spots and only 2 are in active use. And so the ordinance, the legal language that we're looking to pass here has 3 parts to it. Number 1, it's looking to delete the spot on the east side and move it 20 feet. It's going to then remove a spot that's on the westerly side that's not presently in use. And then as we went through the ordinances, we saw that there was also an additional handicap space that's not actually marked on the street with a placard. So there's it's like a typo in the ordinances. And so there's just one bit of housekeeping to delete that space. So again, so we have 4 spaces. 1 is going to be deleted and then moved slightly by 20 feet. We're going to delete 1 space that's not in use, delete 1 space that's on the books, but has never actually been utilized. So it's still there'd still be 2 spaces remaining for each of the individuals that are actively using their handicap parking spaces. I think that during public comment, there was an allusion to some photographs being submitted. There were photographs being submitted at the last city council meeting, but it was very unclear, A, that it was Ivy Ave, B, that those spots where the handicap placards were on the street is where those cars were. And then lastly, it was not clear whether there were handicap placards inside the vehicles. And I do believe that Councilor Anderson Burgos submitted several additional photos to the full body to demonstrate that over the time between which this was filed, which was a while ago, and today, that there's been the ability through photographs to demonstrate that those spots are not utilized. The spots that we're deleting are not being utilized. And so we have the individuals, we have the applicants who match the 2 spaces that will remain intact. And again, it's Councilor Anderson Burgos' order. So if he wants to add anything to this, I would defer to him.
Councilor Anderson Burgos.
So I want everyone to bear with me. I'm dealing with an extreme, really bad headache. So I actually wrote this stuff down so I don't miss anything. So I'll start with this. So the order was filed in 2018, September 2018, because the residents were complaining that there wasn't adequate parking. At the time when the order was filed, neither one of the 2 handicap parking spaces that are currently physically in front of 9 Ivy, east side of Ivy Ave, were being utilized. So that's why the original order that I filed is being presented as 2 being removed. That has since then changed. So as we all know, it took a very long time before this order was taken out of the jacket. And in between that time, that's why I was taking pictures and referring to the chairperson at the time to have it removed from the jacket. And it kept getting, and once it kept getting tabled. And when it was tabled, it was because we needed more information. I decided to go and do a ton of research, more than enough research I have in front of me to be able to remove and move forward on removing 1 out of the 2 on east side in front of 9 Ivy Ave. So like I said, over the years, I visited and spoke to all the residents, not just in the building, but throughout the street. I also spoke to the owner of the building, who said in an email that was also submitted to you all, that only 1 resident that lives on 9 Ivy Ave has a handicap placard on his vehicle, but this 1 person did not apply. So on Ivy Ave, by the way, I should mention, on Ivy Ave, when I reached out to the city clerk's office and asked how many applications are there, I got back the answer, only 1 application. That is why, again, in 2018, I decided, to listen to what the residents were saying and remove 2 of the handicap parking signs. But again, that changed because of the 1 gentleman that lives on 9 Ivy, Jose. I also spoke to the Disability Commission, who said, their responsibility is basically looking at the applications and the materials that come with it and, supporting the documentation of allowing or accepting the approval of these handicap spaces. They also said that they're not in the business of removing or suggesting removal of the handicap spaces Also, that information was provided to you via email. There should be 2 separate emails from the Commission of Disabilities that you all should have received. Let's see. Basically, I've done enough work, and I would never take away from anyone. I would never do that kind of person. So I'm simply, what I'm asking for is to do what the residents of that building are asking me to do, is to allow them to have 1 extra parking space. And if you look at the pictures that I provided, that picture was taken in the winter, and there's a whole street that no cars were parked in because of the handicap parking spaces. So, and we all know it's kind of difficult when you don't own your own home to not have adequate parking spaces. It's like playing musical chairs. So, and I also want to mention, I'll leave you with this, when I see a city councilor, any one of you, working extremely hard to make sure that we are serving our constituents, and I see that you've done your homework, I'm going to allow that, as I have faith in my fellow councilors, that they've done their due diligence and that they made sure that they are serving their constituents. That is exactly what I'm doing. And I promise you, I've crossed my T's, dotted my I's. I would never harm anyone. That's not the kind of person I am. And I hope you all know that. You should know me that by now from me. I've worked with you all. I've tried extremely hard to bring you guys together, to work with you, to make this city a great city. And that's simply what I'm asking you to do by helping the residents that have been dealing with this long enough. I'm not that person. Again, please help me help my residents. Thank you so much.
Councilor Leahy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm listening to Councilor Burgo's statements. I don't think that anybody thinks ill of you. I most certainly don't. I do think you do your due diligence and your homework. And I also think there's a process in place to have a handicap placard or a handicap license plate, which everybody should go through that wants one. However, I also know Odette, and I also not in the business of moving a parking spot for her as an elderly person. I wouldn't do that to anybody. So I see that there's kind of an argument in my head on this subject, but I'm certainly always going to go with the homeowner, the rental, the person that lives there, the constituent, over anything else. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to restate for the full council a comment or two that I made in committee. And I've been on the committee for a number of years now, and we've put in handicap spaces and we've taken them out. I have never been in a situation where we removed handicap spaces over the objections of residents on the street. And in this particular situation, that is what we're facing. So we have 4 handicap spaces on the books. There was consensus that one of them is not marked on the street. It's not been recognized as having existed on the street, and everybody was in support of eliminating it out of the book. That leaves 3 remaining spaces. There, I don't want to get into an argument about whose pictures are real and whose pictures aren't. But I am going to rely on the constituents that live there. And we had credible reports that in both cases, they use the 2 spaces. And when a space has already been ordained, a resident who has a duly approved handicap placard does not need to go through the process of obtaining one specific to themselves. All they really need to do is ascertain and make it known that they have use of it and they have need for it and they are using it. And so to me, we have had reports by people who went on the street. We've had reports from people who live on the street that while the third space is not used at all times, it is used. And so to me, I can't see making a competitive situation between people who need handicapped spaces, two of which we know two people use every day, leaving one for every other person in the neighborhood in the area that they may use, which we have reasonable information through the at least 3 or 4 meetings that we've had on this matter since 2018. And so in the face of opposition from the constituents, I will vote with the constituents to deny these. Thank you.
Councilor Anderson Burgos.
Through the chair or through the president to Councilor Lisi, I is that's okay?
Yeah.
So I don't recall having the one at 8 Ivy being moved, the elderly woman's moved. I could have sworn that was across the street. Am I right? There was one point where we'd suggested moving that parking space closer to her home, but not further, because as it stands, it's actually far. Not her, because it's not specifically for her, but as I understand, or as I saw, and even in my pictures, you can see that the one that's in front of the elderly woman's home is actually further away. And my concern was like, why don't we just move it closer to her home? But then the engineer came back with, well, then you would eliminate 2 parking spaces in front of her home, and suggested that we leave that handicap alone. So the elderly woman's handicap parking space is not being moved. That one in front of her home is not being moved. I was under that impression, if I remember correctly.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I do apologize. It's correct. I misinterpreted the portion of the legal language that sets the location. So if you look at the legal form, and everybody has the legal form in front of them, it says delete location Ivy Ave side east from a point 50 feet north of Dwight Street to a point 20 feet farther north, type. And it says a handicap placard with an actual ID number and expiration date. And what we're adding in its place is the exact same language, but removing the identifier of a particular handicap placard and expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
I misunderstood when I saw the movement to a point farther north. I misread it, and I apologize if I created any confusion there. It's just the text change for the type of placard. So it's not going to be identified with a particular placard number, because this is just the way that the process has changed over the years.
Yeah. So, and I want to reiterate again, also that I've been down that street all the time because I use the Pride gas station right above. So that's why I was able to take pictures. It's not that I hang around in that area all the time. It's just when I go to the gas station, I took pictures. Gas station pictures. So I have tons of pictures. I wasn't even able to send them all to you. So again, there is only one application. That is the elderly woman that lives at 8 Ivy. There's no other applications there. Now, I don't have an issue with the handicap parking signs being there, but the residents keep complaining, saying that both of them at one point weren't being used, and then that one is now being used, and now there's a third one that doesn't need to be there. It just doesn't need to be there. And again, this is, I just, for the life of me, I'm trying to understand, and I've spoken with actually the elderly woman quite a few times, so I don't appreciate a certain past city councilor saying that I've never spoken to that resident when they actually met. They came to my previous employer, and I have proof of that, and had discussions. I had to remind the elderly woman, we can't have these kinds of discussions here. So I've had multiple discussions with this elderly woman. I'm not that kind of person. I'm just simply doing what my residents, my constituents have asked me time and time again, that please help us out with this parking issue. And again, there's no need if it's not being utilized. It doesn't make sense. It's a waste of space.
Counselor,
Mr. President?
Hold on, Counselor McGivern, and then Counselor Graney.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's no secret or certainly there's a lot of history of incidents of handicap placking causing problems in the neighborhood. Ivy Avenue has been one. Clinton Avenue years ago was one. Northeast Street was one. And they all have a little bit of neighborly love attached to it. And I understand that. We rely upon two things, and I rely upon one benchmark, but we rely upon two things to get the spaces in the correct area for the residents who live on the street. One is the city engineer doing the measurements accordingly so we don't lose any spaces. And my understanding, if I just heard the explanation, is 8 Ivy Avenue is not changing. So the full maximum amount of spaces on the east side will be there. Now on the west side, there's, my understanding, one resident who lives and parks on Ivy Avenue. So that's the second handicap spot that's for a resident on Ivy Avenue. And I guess the committee's telling us that there's no other residents that use these parking places. So we want to reduce it down to 2. Okay. In the committee, I asked, because what relieved us of a lot of the neighbor issues was the Disability Commission vetting these parking places. And I asked for if the Disability Commission could vet this out for us. And I don't have that email, but my understanding is there was a misunderstanding that it was about removing things. And no, I just want to know, what do we need? The Disability Commission could easily do that. That's what they do. That's what they've always done. But to me, the benchmark is simple: overnight parking. The resident who needs a handicap parks on the street overnight, and they park in the handicap spot. There's no loss of parking. And that's what the Disability Commission has been great about determining how many overnight parking handicap placard owners of vehicles are there on the street. So again, I'd like to hear from the Disability Commission.
Counselor Graney.
Yeah, Mr. President, I have no doubt that all the research has been done so forth with these parking places. The one that's not in use, I can understand. It's unmarked. I can understand that being eliminated. The other 3 spots, I think, should remain. Even if somebody in that area that's living in that area utilizes it for 2 or 3 hours a day, I still think that parking area should remain. I know too well about the misuse of handicap spaces where people who are able-bodied and are using them. But if you have 2 good legs and you can walk a distance, I think it's fine. You should be able to go ahead and park a little distance away. But if there are people with disabilities that are using these parking places, and I did see on 2 passes where there were 3 handicapped cars that were parked in those spaces over there, I think that we should keep them. Thank you.
A question to the chair. The order 30B says the Committee on Ordinances referred an order that handicap spaces on Ivy Ave be condensed to one space in front of Ivy Ave to be located on the east side of the street, 90 feet north of Dwight Street. And then we have three different ordinances. One with regards to deleting Ivy Ave East, adding Ivy Ave East, and it gives the measurements. Then the second one is on the west, a 50 point north of Dwight Street. You're deleting that. And then the other one is another. So I understand, you know, some of the discussion tonight was we're housekeeping on one. So one of the four doesn't exist. So get rid of the fourth that doesn't exist. It's only on paper. And then the other ones we're trying to move, but this is voting on the whole package the way I'm reading it. Is that correct? Or
so just like with any order that's filed, it sometimes gets amended in committee through the discussion. So what you see on the agenda is the original order that was filed. Okay. And I just want to reiterate, so there's 4 spots on the street. One doesn't really exist. It's never existed except for in the ordinance. And there's 2 people with handicap placards on the block. And we're going to essentially delete one of the 3 spots on the west side of the street.
No, I understand.
So that there would be 2 spots remaining, not moving any spots, not moving any spots. Just
no, I understand that. My point is, I don't think there's anyone here that would say, do the housekeeping, vote on, you know, well, I'll call it number 4, get rid of the 4 spot because it doesn't exist. So you vote on that separately, leading to the other issues that we're now talking about, which is, do you delete a sign? Do you move a sign? What have you? Mm-hmm. But this is as a package, I guess, is my question. It doesn't take it into step by step is really what I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because if you vote on everything, you're voting to get rid of a sign, move a sign, whatever. When I'm really looking to talk about the 4th one or the 4th prong, which is there's a sign that should be there that doesn't, it only exists on paper. So just do the housekeeping, get rid of it. That.
Yes, however, I just want to reiterate and make really clear that there's no signs being moved. It's getting rid of a paper sign that doesn't really exist, and it's getting rid of a second sign that doesn't really get utilized. It's not assigned to any individual. It's not been applied for. And in fact, to the counselor, the maker of the order, there's only one application for the entire street. So technically, we have three spaces for one person. We have 2 people that have a need for handicap parking. And this order would create 2 spaces on the block for the 2 people that need it.
No, I understand. I was just saying, since it's as a package, if someone is just voting for one item, now they might not vote for everything because of that. But I understand what you're saying. I just wanted clarity. Counselor Vacan's next, then Counselor Anderson Burgos.
That's so. Thank you, Mr. President. The only point I was going to make is that I offered an amendment in committee to approve the elimination of the paper space to separate it out from the others, but the committee overruled it and they sent it as a total package. I would renew my motion to amend the legal form to eliminate the 4th paper space. If anybody on the council is so inclined to second that. But I don't see the point of doing the other changes. So I will offer that as a motion to amend.
I'll second that.
It was seconded. So motion was to amend the report to take up separately the removal of the 4th spot, which is the paper spot. And I do believe that's the one, and correct me if I'm wrong, so I don't, because I know there's many of them. Ordinance that section 86-321 entitled Schedule I Parking, deleting Ivy Ave West, a point 80 feet north of Dwight Street, a point 20 feet further north, handicap placard and the number expired 6/16/08. All ordinances or part ordinance and consistent herewith be hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take effect on passage. Is that the correct one?
As far as I understand, yes. I mean, since you have, I mean, look, I don't know how much time we're spending on this at this point in time, but we're talking about handicap placards. And I understand that people are very attached to the present arrangement of the handicap placards, but why don't we just, you know, vote on them as a 30C, section 1, section 2, section 3, and just get it over and done with? Because
well, hold on. There's a motion that was seconded to separate and take up that one. I'm just trying to make sure that that is the correct one.
I understood it as an amendment to the entire order.
Right, and that was seconded. I just want to make sure I'm reading the right amendment to that. If that is correct, and we're on the same page, then that's what we're currently on. That was the amendment. To that amendment, are there any discussions to it?
Yeah.
All right, so first is Councilor Murphy, then we'll go to Councilor Anderson Burgos, which will suspend the rule. We'll have to suspend the rules for a third time to speak. Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. And let me, as I review these, it is confusing. I tried to get a better understanding. I did ask the city clerk to give me some stuff, and there's a lot of paperwork that goes along with all this. I want to make a few points. To me, the 36th Amendment, which I think is the first page on the ordinance, which does not change the spot of the Ivy Avenue handicap parking. It just changes it from a placard number to handicap parking.
Yes.
That to me keeps everything the same, but it does make the language, because we are, as I understand it, and you, Mr. President, you told me this when I tried to do it for someone especially, that we can't have the placard for somebody. So I think that amendment, the 36th Amendment on Ivy Avenue East, puts our legal language where it should be and still maintains that handicap parking spot exactly where it is.
Yep.
So I would
agree.
Certainly go along with that. I have concerns about the others for this reason. If in fact, and it appears there is someone else that should be applying for a handicap placard, at least one, and I did suggest to Councilor Anderson Burgos that maybe right now you would table these, let that person apply for a handicap placard specifically, and then see where that is. And then, as I understand, and I'm not trying to create any hassles here, I'm just trying to find a way to get through this and keep everybody where they get what they need. But you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we are in a situation where to get a handicap spot, that person applies, we review it, and the Disability Commission says, yes, they deserve it. So I'm not ready to repeal any of the others because I'm still not sure exactly where it is, but I do think if we can, at least that first person that we know parks there and is, as I understand it, does have a handicap placard, that would then be the person to apply for one of these anyway. And then the one that's going to be repealed, I don't know where that is. I honestly cannot tell you if there's three ordinances or 4 ordinances covering handicap parking there. So I don't know. But I do think the first one that does change it from a placard to making it a handicap parking space on the east side does make sense. The others I'm still working on.
All right, so Councilor Anderson Burgos speaking for the third time. So motion to suspend the rules so I'll speak. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Councilor Anderson Burgos.
Thank you guys. Oh, this is, bear with me. I'm still trying to hang on there. So does it strike everyone odd that the only person advocating for all 3 handicap parking spaces is the elderly woman? That's one, right? One person, one application, one handicap parking space. The one person advocating for all 3 handicap parking spaces is this elderly woman. That's one. Secondly, the pictures that were submitted, if you look at the angle in which those pictures were taken, they were taken from the person, the elderly woman, advocating for the 3 spaces, right? From her window down to, that's the angle that I'd say 75% of those pictures were taken, giving support to what I'm saying is that the elderly woman is the one that wants all these parking spaces. And thirdly, and I'll leave you with this because it's really upsetting and strange and odd, that I submitted to you all an email from the owner of the building today, only to get a call from this person to let me know that the former Ward 6 councilor, Kevin Jordan, called him. Manipulation?
Well, we can't do that. No names. We know that's the rule. That's the point of order.
Well, I mean, I apologize, but to me, it's striking me as this is insane. First of all, the city council has so much work to do. We have a city to run. And as Councilor Lisi mentioned, we have so much on our plate, and to be sitting here discussing for the past half hour about a handicap parking space that is not being utilized is beyond belief. And I'd hope, and I want to think that the city of Holyoke, the residents, are sitting here watching us discuss a handicap parking space, because that's your tax dollars going out the window while we can be discussing real work to make this city a better city. Mm-hmm. It is unbelievable that we are discussing this. I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak again, but please, what are we doing? What are we doing to one another here? It's like, I've done my homework and I leave it at that. I go with the will of the body at this point. I'm exhausted. I have a headache. I don't feel well. Thank you for listening.
Councilor McGivern.
President, I still haven't heard back from the Disability Commission, as I've now requested twice, but I guess that's what it is. But I do want to point out that in you and Councilor Murphy are correct that the original procedure for this was a person with a placard recognized the placard was given to them by the state, you know, making the disability legit, was always put into the ordinance, but more important, was always put on the sign. The state told us that Mass General laws don't allow us to, on any on-street parking, designate a space for an individual, even handicapped. And that's why we took the placard numbers off the signs. But we agreed to leave the placard in the ordinance for the purpose of allowing the Disability Commission and the City Council to recognize that at some point in time, people are going to leave their residence and that sign will no longer be needed. It's there for a reference point, and that's why it's there. And if you'll find it in every ordinance over the years, has a placard number. Now, I hear two things. We should be removing that placard number, but that the other person who has a placard on the street has to apply. That it's not the person who applies, it's the city councilor who files the order that says we need this parking space on the street. That's all we got to do. We don't need a person to, if the person speaks to any individual, ward councilor or at large, says, I live here, I need a place to park overnight that's close to my door because I'm handicapped, I have a disability. That's why we do this. It's important. It's very important. It's also very important for the rest of the people on the street to make sure we have the maximum amount of parking places for people who live there for overnight parking. So I don't know why the Disability Commission can't just figure this out for us and tell us how many spots we need.
Councilor Hernandez for the first time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to, through the president to Councilor McGivern, when you, may I?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. When you said, can you please clarify when you said that the person doesn't need to apply, that we, the counselor, either from the ward or at large, can do it for them? However, in the application, we still need to show the handicap permission given to the citizen, right? Although the placard is not gonna be specifically with a number, we still utilize the residents' information to submit that application, and then for the Disability Commission to come out and review it, right?
That's the process.
That is the process. That is correct.
Okay. And then another point is that also to clarify, the Disability Commission, at least since I've been a city council, they don't, it's not a process that they practice to come and also inspect when a handicap placard is no longer needed for its removal. Because we've been able to petition to have them removed when either the person has been courteous enough to let us know that they left, or the neighbors around have told us, look, they don't live here anymore. We need these spaces because we're short. And am I right on that?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's not my question, though.
No, I know, but I know that you mentioned that that the person didn't need to apply for it, that the council.
No, what I said was, and just, can I clarify what I said, Mr. President?
Sure.
I understand Councilor Hernandez has a good point. What I said was, number one is, I want the Disability Commission to justify how many handicap parking places we need in IVF. Meaning, they will do the vetting of how many residents live there, don't have off-street parking for their vehicle, and use that spot overnight. During the day, it's tough, but during the day, we can't just put up handicap parking places in residential streets for someone that comes and goes. It's got to be for overnight parking, so someone who needs it overnight that doesn't have a handicap placard has at least a good shot of being able to park on their street. That's what the Disability Commission does. They go out, they find out if the person, by maybe the landlord or someone else, yes, they have a parking spot in the back. They just want the handicap parking spot to unload their groceries. You can't do that because that takes away from someone overnight. That's all I'm asking is the Disability Commission to tell us how many do we need. I mean, we've gone through this, and for the record, Mr. President, this number 4 Phantom, we've already voted that out of the ordinance. Why it's still in the ordinance, I don't know, but we've had that conversation before, and we voted to remove the one that isn't there.
Councilor Lisi.
You know, I'll just say, through the conversation, I think everybody understands that there's 2 people on the block that need handicap parking, and that the order and the legal language, the way that it's written, would provide handicap parking for those 2 individuals. I understand that there's a desire to have the Commission on Disabilities come in and validate that, but I do believe through the conversations that we've had that Councilor Anderson Burgos has done his due diligence with all the residents on the street to identify that there's really only one person on each side of the street that needs a handicap placard, and this legal language would achieve that without moving any particular spots. It would just assign 2 spots on the block to handicap placards for the 2 individuals that are there. So I don't understand why this has become overly complicated, except for you know, particular attachments to this constellation of placards on the street. And just because it's been here for 15 years without a problem doesn't mean that it's appropriately that it's been used appropriately, or that things don't change over time. I mean, I'd like to move the question at this point.
All right, so Councilor Bacon.
So I just want to note that throughout the discussions relative to the parking for 9 Ivy, it was noted to the committee that there is adequate parking in the back of the building for the people who live there. So there has not been competition that was brought to the committee by anybody living at 9 Ivy. Thank you.
So I can just sum up here. This is not a stranger to me or any of us. Ivy's been an issue for quite some time, even when I first got on the council as the Ward 6 counselor. And the issue is there was a need for 3. There still might be a need for 2.5, could be 3 again, whatever it is. Councilor Anderson Burgos has been approached by other constituents, and as we all know, when a constituent approaches you and asks you to file an order, that's our job. Whether we like the order or not, you take it up and you address it on all the constituents, and that's what he is doing. It's not a personal thing, it's not an attack, it's what he's been asked to do by other constituents. To me, however, I don't think coming out to us in proper form, that's why I asked the question. It's being asked to do a lot of things in one, where I think there might be, my vote is on one of them. The others I still have questions about, specifically the one that Councilor McGivern has brought up. So for me, I think it would probably need further vetting or separating in committee. That's what I would look to make sure we know what exactly is that we're voting on, not as a package, but individually for each and every item. So if people still want to, we can go to the first reading, or you can motion.
I'm going to motion to table, actually, and we'll just get the Commission on Disabilities to validate the report that Councilor Anderson Burgos made.
Second.
Mr. President, as a
Councilor
point of order,
yep, point of order.
we have a motion before us that was seconded to approve the legal form to remove the 4th.
Thank you. Yep, that's right.
Space.
Yep, thank you, Councilor. So that one was first. So, and that's why I read it for to make sure. So on that motion first, it was to take it up separately, and that was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes would have it. So the motion on that 4th one, as I'm calling it, I could be wrong in stating it that way, Councilor Vacan.
Yes, to eliminate the paper space that has no sign and no street markings.
All right. So that's separate from the others, the other
Correct.
3. So is there a motion for that one?
The other 3.
Motion to pass the
There's
removal.
no first reading. It's a deletion. So we voted
Because
to
it was past the
adopt that
first reading under
deletion.
discussion. She amended it to take it out to vote on it separately. So now the motion is to take the other 3 and do what? That's what I'm trying to figure out here. Was there a motion for that one?
So I'm sorry. So the motion was made to separate it out. That motion approved, and now we need a separate motion to delete that one, and then we'll lay the remaining on the table.
So motion is to delete that one, pass the first reading. All those in favor?
There's no first readings. It's just a deletion.
Oh, deletion. Sorry, yeah, I've seen the ordinance in front of me, so it's just a deletion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Back to the.
Mr. President, still a roll call.
Yeah, it would be a roll call. That's why.
It still has to be ordained.
Yeah. Thank you. I knew I was going on the right.
Even the deletion?
Yeah, the deletion is to
Because you're
ordain it.
deleting
Yeah,
something from the ordinance.
Yeah,
correct.
you have to.
All right, so pass the first reading.
Aye.
All those in favor? All those
Aye.
opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Pass the second
Second.
reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion's that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting to delete the 4th spot that doesn't exist. It's only a paper.
Anderson Burgos,
The lead away. Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Rainey,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez, Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Brenna, you heard me? Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And
Sorry.
I'd like to offer a motion to send the other two back to committee.
Second.
So now send motion and second
My
to
motion
send,
to table was actually first and it
I
was
didn't-
seconded.
well, we're on the prior motion. That's what had to come up first. Now there is a motion to tell, all right,
table.
we'll do it that way. Motion is to table. Seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
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 Show of hands. Motion to table, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Todd, on table.
5.
Okay.
I see 5 hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hands.
And
Lebron Martinez and
Lebron
Leahy said
Martinez.
they're raising their hands.
Yep.
Jim
Second.
Leahy.
Jimmy, you raising your hand?
I did.
Okay, so
I want
1,
more information, clarification.
And
1,
Gladys as
2,
well.
3, 4,
We get
5,
it.
6, 7. All right, motion is to
Roll
table.
call.
All those in favor?
Let's have a roll call to make it clear.
One roll call.
Roll call.
2.
Roll call, I guess.
All right, 3 members have asked for a roll call. The clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting to table.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
No.
Rainey,
No.
Hernandez,
yes,
Leahy,
Yes, for the purpose of clarification.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lacey,
Yes.
McGee,
No.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
No.
Sullivan,
No.
Tolman,
Yes.
Bacon.
No.
7 yeas, 6 nays.
All right, so motion is to table.
7.
That was 7. So
Good news,
now
Mr. President.
I'm getting older. 30C. Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that
Can we
the
take up D and E as a package first,
All right,
just to get them
C,
out of the way?
D, E as a package. All those in favor?
It's
Those
just D and E.
opposed?
D and E.
Just D and C, D and E, right? That's what I said.
No C, no C, because C
Oh,
is attached to all these other ones that are all over the
Okay.
place.
All right, thank you. So just to go out of order to D and E as a package, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Committee on Ordinance 30D referred the adopt a truck exclusion law on West Franklin Street. Recommended that the engineer report to not pursue be accepted. E is the Committee on Ordinance amended adding Washington Ave, Northampton Street, Chapin by adding Chapin from Washington Ave to South Street. Considered and recommended that the engineer report to not pursue be accepted.
Receive and adopt the committee report.
Motion is receive, adopt, under discussion,
Thank you.
Leave to withdraw.
which is not to pursue. Receive and adopt, not to pursue, or leave to withdraw. But under Counselor Lacey.
Sure, so these were 2 different truck exclusion requests that came in. First for West Franklin, filed by Councilor Anderson Burgos, and then second for Washington Avenue and Chapin Street, filed by Councilor Bartley. And the city engineer did a traffic study because there's particular thresholds that need to be met, both for the number of trucks passing down the street and also for the percentage of trucks that make up the overall traffic on the street. And on these 2 blocks, the vehicle counts and the truck counts did not meet the thresholds required to create the truck exclusion by the Mass DOT requirements. So we decided to accept or adopt the engineer's report to not pursue the exclusions.
Anyone further? All right, so the motion is receive, adopt. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Back to 30C.
Yep, so I'm gonna ask for 30C, 30F, 30G.
Motion is take up C, F, and G as a package. All those in favor?
And then
Aye.
wait, additionally, off the table, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Let me go back to those. Then taking back up 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 as well. All those in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So 30C is the Committee on Ordinance has referred in order that the Holyoke Code of Ordinances marijuana facilities be reviewed and amended, including any amendments, definitions, zone requirements, permitting process recommended that be adopted.
Mhm.
F is Committee on Ordinance has referred that the City Council create an ordinance for a revolving fund for marijuana impact fees. That's give leave to withdraw. G, the Committee on Ordinance has referred in order that the mayor and city council petition the general court to enact legislation to allow the city for the sale of marijuana products. Recommend that be give leave to withdraw. Back to 6. To get my paperwork in order here. Just give me 1 second to put it in order. Of course, I put it out of order. All right, give me 1 second. Everything got a little jumbled up here. Give me 1 second. There we go. I got you. We're back. 6, the Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that the marijuana industry activities be allowed with a special permit in the DR residential zone. Recommended be give leave to withdraw. 7, Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that the medical marijuana deliveries be allowed. Recommended that be adopted. 8, Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that the buffer of all marijuana manufacturing be reduced from 500 to 200. Recommended being complied with. 9, Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that the City Council amend the marijuana ordinance regarding deliveries. Leave to withdraw. Committee on Ordinance, this is number 10, who was referred in order that the City Council consider amending the marijuana, allowing marijuana cultivation for 24 hours. Recommended be complied with. And then 11 is Committee on Ordinance was referred that the council consider revising the special permit. Recommended be complied with. Those are all the packet.
So receive the committee report and adopt all the committee reports as a package, and then I'll separate 30C out after the discussion for an ordinance vote.
All right, so motion is to receive as recommended by the, and for under discussion purposes, Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. So there are a lot of orders here because there were a couple of outstanding questions that we had, which we pursued at a second meeting while we were awaiting the legal form. So that's why they're in two separate batches. And I apologize if there's any confusion due to that. But for the most part, we're looking to pass one ordinance this evening that is reflected under 30C, and you've all received the legal form for this. I will go through the changes briefly. I won't go line by line as we did in committee. But we were looking at all these orders that had been filed since 2018, based on our experience and understanding of the way that we're doing permitting in the city, and then also the experiences of the applicants, as well as the planning department and planning board. The changes that you'll see, they're very few and far between at the end of the day, despite the fact that we had a very broad discussion of the complete ordinance. So one of the things that was considered was the like whether the city council would remain as the permitting authority, and according to the ordinance before you, the city council remains the permitting authority for the special permit to allow marijuana in activities in the city. The ordinance before you also leaves marijuana activities, all retail, testing, and delivery operations, as well as manufacturing operations in the IG zones. There was a separate there's a separate consideration to expand manufacturing only in the IP zones. And we felt that it would be better, our community would be better served if we had a separate discussion and notice that went out to the IP parcels to pursue that, as opposed to rolling it into this ordinance. There was an order filed to consider expanding the retail into an overlay zone downtown, but similarly, we'd want to have a separate set of public hearings on those particular zone changes. So as far as this ordinance is concerned, it remains IG as it is already. What it does change, however, is it extends manufacturing hours to 24-hour operations, which can always be limited through conditions. It leaves all public-facing or retail types of activities limited between the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. One of the changes that takes place is that it reduces the buffers and setback requirements to 200 feet for all manufacturing operations. It was at 200 feet for only cultivation, and then other manufacturing types of operations was at 500 feet. But we've felt that since our permitting doesn't distinguish between cultivation and manufacturing activities, that it would be appropriate to bring all manufacturing operations down to the 200-foot buffer. Manufacturing operations that are within nearby to schools. It's for retail operations. Retail operations cannot be located within 500 feet from a school or place where young people congregate. And it also, in this ordinance, defines how to measure that distance, which is a door-to-door measurement based on the shortest pedestrian walking path. Under consideration was on-site consumption, and what we learned was that the state requires a ballot initiative process in order to adopt local ordinances for on-site consumption. Additionally, we had found that in committee, we were often getting incomplete applications, and so this creates a formal pre-application meeting with the planning department so that we, as a city council, are receiving complete applications that are ready for review, as opposed to having to continue and get other random pieces of information over the course of the review period. It also introduces site plan review by the planning board so that there is some enforcement oversight of the conditions that we're putting onto the permits. And I think that is all the changes that we are making in the ordinance tonight. And then my I guess advice, or the way that I think we should go about this, is working to adopt 30C as the ordinance change. And then we can go through and I can package up the give leaves to withdraw and the complied with. All of the other orders were raised through the discussion of the single 30C discussion. And so any of the changes that were identified in the individual orders were either reflected and complied with in the ordinance change that we're looking at for 30C, or if they were not considered or deleted in some way, then they were given leave to withdraw. So we'll take 2 separate package votes following the ordinance change. I'm happy to answer any other questions. And yeah.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just because I've received so many versions of the legal form and the final version is somehow buried in my myriad of attachments, can you just confirm for us that in your final legal form of the ordinance, that under 7.10.4, there is only A remaining?
Yes.
Yes.
A, IG zone, any other type of marijuana establishment may be allowed in the IG zone by special permit of the city council.
And that's it?
That's it.
Thank you. And under 3 is where the 200-foot change is made?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, I don't think I have seen the ordinance. I've been looking through, I've gone all through my papers, all my computer. I don't have a copy of the ordinance.
The final? I can't find it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with a lot of but I haven't had a chance to read it. But other than that, I'm okay with a lot of what Councilor Lisi has said. And I was the original sponsor of the 500 to 200 for cultivation. And after a year and a half, I'm pretty okay to do the next one. But I could have just missed it somehow, but I've gone through all my papers and all my computer. I cannot find it. So I would be voting blind, and I'm not really comfortable with that. So.
Well, what I'm looking at in particular is the email that was sent at 8 o'clock this morning, and it has all of the login information for the meeting, as well as the legal forms for all of the items that we were considering, and any of the documents like minutes and outreach letter. There are a handful of attachments here, but it says plainly item 30C legal form for marijuana, 8:06 this morning.
So if they haven't, I understand what's being said, but if a counselor has not read it yet, that's what they're just telling us. Anyone further? So what would be the will of the body? We have several ones here. C is the ordinance change.
So I'd like to make a motion to separate out 30C and adopt the committee report past the first reading.
Is there a second?
Can I just say something? It looks like it was in the email that everyone received that had all the documents sent in it. I have it up on my screen. It was sent Friday, April 30th. It's titled Legal Form for Marijuana Facilities.
So we had it both on Friday and then again this morning. And I do want to state that this is the legal form that the ordinance committee approved. And so we have seen, at least I'll say Councilor Murphy, as a member of the ordinance committee, you've seen this draft.
So motion was to separate 30C from the rest of the package that we just discussed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion for the ordinance. Anyone further? So in order to pass the first reading, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion be to pass the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
And motion that the passage be ordained?
Motion be that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 30C.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
No.
Rainey,
No.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
No.
yes,
McGivern, Murphy,
No.
Sullivan,
No.
Tallman, Tallman,
You're on mute, Counselor Tom.
Yes.
Bacon,
Counselor Bacon?
Bacon,
No.
Are you on?
At the objection of Counselor Murphy, I can't vote for it as acting mayor.
7 yeas, 6 nays.
So, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you
It broke
wanna
up
just-
there. Well, I didn't hear them. It was 7-6.
Did you rule on it? I'm sorry, it was 7-6. And do you want to rule on it before I go on?
So,
Yes, 7 to 6.
so it's an ordinance, you need 9, correct?
Yes.
So
No,
you-
it's an ordinance change. It's not a zone
Oh, it's
change.
ordinance change? All right, so it's an ordinance change.
Need
So it's
9.
se-
It's
seven
not a
would be
zone
the-
change.
You just
No.
need 7.
Just need 7, that's what I'm
In the
getting at.
rules,
It's
I'll
it's
read
a
the rule if you
change,
want. I'll go get the rule.
it's a change. 7. So it's 7 for the change, correct? That's what I'm looking for.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. 7-6 was the vote.
Yes.
Now we're back to
6, we
G.
could take up as a package, 6, 9, 30F, and 30 G, which are all given leave to withdraw.
All right. So 30F, G, back to the table, which was 6 and 9. These are all the ones that were discussed, but these are give leave to withdraw.
Yeah.
The motion is to receive, adopt, and give these 1, 2, 3, 4 leave to withdraw. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes
Mr.
have it.
President,
Yeah.
a
Councilor
point of order. I would
Yep.
refer you to Rule 38 on the last vote we just took.
So back to C,
Yes.
okay,
States that the motion that legal form be ordained by a 2/3 supermajority vote of the full council voting in a recorded roll call vote.
that's why I was asking if we need the 2/3 or the 7 votes, because this was an ordinance change or it was just an amendment.
Motion that the legal form be ordained by a 2/3 supermajority of the full council.
And my objection is that we had a member who had not had the opportunity to read the legal form who objected. So, I mean, I have asked repeatedly that we receive final legal form with enough notice to have time to review it ahead of time. And this, we've had.
Everybody received it on Friday from my office.
So the vote was 7-6. I thought it needed 9. It's being said that we need 7. Legal can weigh in it wasn't enough. It wasn't sufficient at that point in time. We just did F, G, 9, 6, and 9. We
Just
now
a point of
have.
order, Mr. President.
Yep.
I'm sorry, you need legal to weigh in on Rule 38? Is that what you're saying?
I said it needed 9, but I'm being told that it's only needs 7. So if that's going to be contested, then legal can weigh in saying that my ruling was incorrect on the number needed.
Okay, so just can I clarify your ruling, please?
Sure,
So
sure.
would you just clarify for me and the body that, so you ruled that based upon Rule 38, that ordinance change failed to pass. Is that true?
I think it would need 9 votes. And that's why I asked for clarification. I was told, no, it would need 7.
Okay,
Counselor
because there's
Vacan
back
is
and
also.
forth from the clerk and from the chair and all that, and they both said majority, and I thought I heard you say majority. So, but now you're saying, just for clarification.
Just
you're
for clarification, when the first question came up, I said, do you need
did,
9
but
or
then
7?
but then they said something else, and you said it passed. But now you're saying it failed to pass.
No, listen, I said, if it is 7, then it would pass. Now, Counselor Vacan has brought up a point of order saying we still believe it is 9. And that's what I thought it was originally, that you would need 9 for that type of ordinance change.
Okay, so the ruling is it failed to pass.
That's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
President,
Mr.
make a motion to
President?
reconsider item number 30C.
Motion is to reconsider item 30C. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It was seconded by Counselor Murphy. Counselor McGivern.
Mr. President, I understand the confusion and there's a lot going into this, and I would just ask we reconsider it and lay it on the table so we can get some advice and legal ruling on this.
I'll second.
So motion is to table in order to get legal advice on what is required. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Back to, and that would be, it is tabled. Back to 7, 8, 10, and 11 are outstanding.
So I would like to amend the committee report on 7 from adopted to complied with, because there's no legal form for 7. It's involved in the 30C legal form.
So 7 is the committee on ordinance would refer an order that medical marijuana deliveries be allowed. Have a consider recommended that be complied with.
So just a motion to amend it, and then we'll package all the complied to it.
So motion is to change adopted to complied with. There's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed. So 7's complied with, 8 would be complied with, 10 would
and
be
11.
complied with, and 11. So motion is to receive, adopt that these have been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. 31. Didn't miss any?
No, we got them all.
All right. 31. We're back to off to finance. 31A. Committee on Finance has referred with Chapter 4453A that the council hereby accept the provisions of the COVID-19 $192 grant. Motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met last week and correct them on 31A.
Yes.
And we had the request before us. Our Board of Health Director, Sean Gonzalez, was in, as always, very thorough, as always, gave us the details necessary and answered all of our questions. Essentially, this is a grant that's kind of a round 2 of a grant. At this point in time, a big part of what this grant is going to be doing is using for the encouragement and the facilitating of getting vaccinations to the residents of Holyoke. He gave us some of the sites that are part of the a part of the plan. He gave us the how the money is going to be spent and how it's going to be accounted for. And the total amount is $151,192, and the committee voted in favor of accepting it based on our Board of Health Director's proposals.
Anyone for Council Murphy?
Hey, just real quick, just make an announcement. Well, we are going to have a mobile vaccine at Veterans Park this Thursday and Friday. And I believe it's just a walk up, but you know, they are trying to encourage more people from the residents, and they're going to do it. They'll follow up 4 weeks later with the second vaccine, but they are at Veterans Park. I'm not exactly sure what corner of the park. I think it's by the rectory, but I'm not positive. And that is pretty much, I'm going to say it's like 11 to 5 or something to that nature, and it'll be Thursday and Friday.
Okay. Thank you for that. So motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion be passed the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 31A.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Rainey,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you're approved 31A. 31B, Committee on Finance for the fiscal year 2021 firefighter safety equipment grant for $19,512.22. There's no match. Recommended that be adopted. So receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Chief Preskopowski was before the Finance Committee. He broke down the $19,512.22 into 3 parts. One will be for new hoses, equipment for the apparatus, $4,255. iPods for the fire trucks and some apparatus, some of the vehicles that support the fire trucks, $9,764. And airbags for truck number 2, that's at the Highland Station for $5,492. Chief Preskopowski outlined this. He's fully aware of having to spend this money if he does spend it before June 30th to make sure that it's in good standing before we get looked at by the outside auditor. Finance Committee recommends accepting the grant, which, as you said, has no match.
So motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 31B.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Rainey,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approved that one. 31C is the Mass Dot Shared Winter Streets and Spaces Program for $72,000. And that's another grant. Recommended that be adopted. Motion be receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Our discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The city engineer, Bob Parent, was before us. As always, very thorough and very prepared to answer our questions. This is an addition or a go around to the Valley Bike Program. We all know the Commonwealth is big on shared space with streets, whether it's normal, regular bicycles, the Valley Bike Program, and other ways of greenways of people getting around. This is an enhancement to the program itself. He explained to us that the partnership with Valley Bike, even though we recognize in the past they are in it for a profit, but the partnership with Valley Bike to stay in any community does bring some expenses to the city. So this is a way to share our expenses with a grant from the state to help us keep in compliance with what I believe is a good program. Finance Committee votes that we accept the grant.
The motion is to receive, adopt, and pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. The clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the grant.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes. Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Rainey,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve that grant. Now it's 31D. This is from finance, $100,000 from patrolman to $100,000 of overtime. Recommended that be adopted. Motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Our discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had Chief Feeble, Captain Pratt, and Lieutenant Hart before us on this issue, all in one meeting. Three well-respected individuals with the Holyoke Police Department itself, and all three in important positions. Ironically, they had technical problems as soon as they were recognized and came on the air and went off the air, and then came back on, went off the air. I guess the Wi-Fi was kind of giving them problems in the downtown area or wherever they were. But we got through it. We finally got them to answer some of our questions. I'd like to take a moment to commend Mayor Murphy. He has sent a message to the police department that in the spirit of affordability for the totality of our city budget, the police department, needs to bite the bullet and do some things accordingly, but at the same time to try to do it for less. They originally asked, and that'll be item number 6 coming up in a minute, for over $200,000 in transfers, and they reduced it to $100,000. Chief Feeble said it directly that this will get him through the end of the year, and he's hoping that he will not even have to use the total amount on overtime. He's doing his best to cut back. He said even if this line item is exhausted with this transfer, it'll still be $300,000 less in overtime than what the police department used last year. So I think we had a lot of questions, but I think that Mayor Murphy has taken the bull by the horns, so to speak, and is working with the police department to reduce their costs in this area. And I think the couple noteworthy numbers are we do have, they're about to be corrected, but we do have a number of vacancies in our patrol officers. Before the ordinance committee, I believe, is still my request to increase the cap on reserve officers so they have a bigger pool to choose from with the vacancies in the police department, mostly due to retirements, but there are other factors. And the chief explained, a lot of this overtime is used, when there's a patrol, a car or a patrol or an assignment, someone calls in sick, someone's injured, someone is not available, they use overtime to keep that car on the road. So with in mind of the work on both Mayor Murphy and the chief, to reduce these costs, the committee recommends that the $100,000 be adopted.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, thank you. Very well summed up by our chairman. I just wanted to state that, the chief did state that because of the weather getting warmer, there's a little bit more activity out there. And so he said he had about 5 pay periods left in that with this transfer of money, that it would get them till the end of the year safely. And I really appreciate, Mayor Murphy and the chief and all the supervisors of the police department to try to keep our costs down compared to last year. Thank you.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, my fellow councilors, for your kind words. There are a few things. Number one, I'm going to be appointing some new reserves shortly, probably within the next week to 10 days. And then from there, hopefully appointing from the reserves that we currently have to fill some of the patrolmen. So that we are down somewhere between 10 and 13 or 14 positions in terms of patrol officers. And we are in a time, we've had an uptick in, as you know, we've had an uptick in crime in the last couple of days that have made, unfortunately, some headlines. And so there is a concern, and they did indicate this is a busy time, and it's a time when they have unforeseen overtime, but that they will live within this and make sure they can do it. I had a good discussion in terms of the whole process of getting council to get an understanding of why they have to do it, so that maybe in the future we can prevent doing some of this just by having a better staffing. And it's not an easy thing that I'm finding out. So I do appreciate your support, though. Thank you. And I appreciate them reducing the expenditure request.
So the motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion be to pass the second reading. The clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the $100,000.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Abstain.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
12 yeas, 1 nay. 12 yeas, 1 abstain.
With your vote, you approve the 100,000 transfer. 31E, $1,000 from pay local building inspector to pay overtime. Recommend it be approved. Motion be receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilman McGivern.
Mr. President, Damien Cody, the building department, was before us. First, he identified the surplus in the local building inspector line item due to that position was vacant for part of the year. Therefore, there were some extra monies in it. Second, the overtime is for a code enforcement officer who under contract is eligible and did work the overtime hour. Mr. Cody did tell us that he does keep track as a department head of these overtime hours, and believes that this is a legitimate expense. The committee voted to adopt the transfer.
No one further. Motion to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the $1,000 transfer.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Abstain.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tolman,
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
12 yeas, 1 abstain.
For your vote, you approve the transfer. 31F, $200,000 from patrolman training court and incentives to overtime. Recommended that it be returned to the auditor.
Motion to receive, adopt.
Motion to receive, adopt, to refer back to the auditor.
As stated, Mr. President, the police department asked to withdraw this. They no longer want the $200,000 according to their negotiations with Mayor Murphy.
All right, so all those in favor, oh, Councilor Lisi, sorry.
I just have a question after we get through the finance reports.
It broke up. Councilor Lisi, can you say it again? You broke up.
I have a question for after we get through the finance reports.
Oh, okay. So motion is receive, adopt, send back to the auditor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? There was no public safety to public service. Councilor Lisi first.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. The first is, can you just tell me what the final action on 30C was? Because there was a lot of commotion and I didn't catch it in my notes here.
Tabled with a request for a legal.
Okay. And then secondly, I'm very shocked, I have to say, that we're discovering 14 years after I've been on the city council that an ordinance change requires 2/3 majority. For zoning amendments, yes, and I would agree that this is a zoning amendment in the end. But to discover that Rule 38 says that we have always needed 2/3 vote for any ordinance change is just really taking me aback at this moment. And I just would love for someone to confirm whether that's how we've always been doing it or if it's a change the rules.
Councilor McGivern.
I agree with Councilor Lisi. I don't think we need a 2/3 vote for a handicap placard ordinance change, do we?
No,
For handicap placard?
Mhm.
That's an ordinance change.
it's an ordinance change, yeah.
Yeah, I asked.
Actually,
and-
non-controversial.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll get the legal opinion. That's why I asked the question on it, because of the way I was reading it. I could be wrong. That's why I asked, and I got two different versions, so it's better to table to get the right answer. That's all. So,
But I'm just curious if I mean, I'm looking at the rules, and it certainly says in Rule 38 a 2/3 majority, and I'm just sort of stunned because I don't recall doing it like that ever, and so I'm just wondering if there was a rule change at some point.
so the rules that we have adopted at the beginning of the cycle, that I read them when was asked earlier, what rules are for votes. I read the rules and how majority versus supermajority. So I read them as they are given to us. Whether they're amended how many years ago or not, I would have to look that up.
Thank you.
It's Councilor Bacon. Yep.
Thank you. I would just note that probably we're not thinking about the supermajority because most of the time when we're doing ordinances for handicap, it's very non-controversial. And so it's usually a unanimous vote. So we wouldn't be thinking about the numbers, but we're meeting it because we're always at usually unanimous. Thanks.
So 33A, we're on to Public Service Committee. Committee on Public Service, we're in order that appointing Brian Smith, 48 Holy Family Road, to serve as the retirement board. Recommend that be approved. Councilor Leahy.
Yes, just to make a recommendation that it's been confirmed.
All right, so recommending that we confirm him.
Yeah, so under discussion.
Yeah, correct.
I don't think that anybody in here that doesn't know Brian. Brian was with the city of Holyoke for a very long time, and in his position as auditor, he was a ex de facto member of the retirement board. He's hitting the ground running. He knows exactly what to do, what not to do. He can make some changes. I think it's gonna be a fantastic addition.
Councilor Lisi. It's on mute.
Thank you. I'll just note that, Brian gave a really wonderful explanation of the role and function of the retirement board. I won't rehash it here in the interest of time, but for anyone who wants to understand what the retirement board is doing and how they're working to ensure that we have a pension fund for our municipal employees, could go back to the meeting minutes and video. And it was really informative, and I really appreciated him taking the time to go through that with us.
Councilor McGivern.
I'd just like to speak in favor of the confirming the appointment, Mr. President. Well done. Brian was one of the finest auditors I've ever served with. He did it for 20-something years before he left the city for the private sector. And as Councilor Leahy pointed out, during those, he was an ex officio voting member of the retirement board itself. I was impressed when I asked him at the committee level about, if he had a handle on our unfunded liability. And I think he had it down to dollars and cents, exactly what's going on. And we're thankfully going in the right direction because of investments that were made during the time Brian was on the retirement board and during the time when Mr. Ray DeFalto has been one of their financial consultants for investments. It's important to us, I think, to keep control of our retirement. And I know people on the state level would like to see that go away. Brian is the asset we need there to keep going in the right direction.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. While I was unable to attend that particular meeting, I did reach out to Brian to let him know that I was in strong support of his appointment. And I consider us as a community to be very fortunate to have him back with us in an official capacity. Thank you.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I didn't make the meeting myself either, but I very much know Brian worked on it for several years while he was the auditor. It's an excellent choice. Really helped to put the retirement board on a good financial footing. Really glad that he's stepping back into the city to help out. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Yeah, Councilor Graney.
I made the meeting and Brian was great. He'll be a great addition. So I'm in favor of this appointment.
All right, so motion is to receive, adopt, and approve the appointment of Brian Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 33B, so the ayes would have it. He's appointed. 33B, Public Safety.
Make a
letter
motion to
appointing,
confirm.
Counselor Patty Devine of 58 Magnolia to the Department of Public Works. Motion is to receive and approve the appointment. Counselor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. Once again, we had former counselor Patricia Devine. Patricia Devine Patty came in and gave a great interview. One of the things that I think means the most about this is not her dedication to the city of Holyoke, not her organizational skills, not her union skills, not the fact that she loves Holyoke, not the fact that she served the city as a city councilor for so many years, is the fact that she's going to be serving on the DPW Board Commission where her father worked. Now, how cool is that? I think that is just something that I think just means a lot. I think that her organizational skills, I think that her leadership or managerial skills, I think she's going to do a fantastic job on that. She gave a great interview. She's another person that is well known to the board here, and I'm happy to support her. Thank you.
Counselor
Mr.
McGivern.
President?
Hold on, Counselor Graney. Counselor McGivern, then Counselor Graney.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too would like to speak in favor of the confirmation of former Councilor Devine's appointment to the DPW. Tremendous addition to the DPW Commission. She, as always, did her homework up front. She knows the other two members. She has respect for the other two members. She did note, though, she wants to make sure that the minutes for the meeting are more timely published so that we, not just us, but the public at large has the availability to look at the minutes of the meetings themselves. She talked about some of the issues that are facing on the sewer rate, the collections of sewer dollars themselves, and I think she's ready to tackle some serious issues that the faces the DPW. Great appointment. Thank you.
Counselor Anderson Burgos.
You missed me.
I saw it. Great. Okay. Counselor Anderson Burgos and Counselor Graney. Sorry, Counselor Graney. Looking at my list.
Sorry, I don't feel well. I know I've said this 100 times today, but I just want to say and put this on record that Patty Devine is one of the most admirable, loving, caring, hardworking, true Holyoke, everything and above. Like, she deserves this more than anyone, and I'm so proud. And my vote will absolutely be a definite and an enthusiastic yes.
Counselor Graney.
Yeah, I'm certainly going to vote in favor of Patty's appointment. She's a great person, and she will keep the city council informed of the goings on in the DPW. She'll be very transparent, and that's something that we need. And certainly I have a great pleasure in supporting Patty.
Counselor Tallman.
Yeah, very much in support of this for Patty. I've worked with her on a council several years ago. It's a great appointment. I'm glad she's stepping back to help out, although she's been helping out the city in different capacities over the years with the voting and other issues, especially with our proclamation. So I'm really happy that she got appointed to this position and really will be a definite asset to the city of Holyoke.
So with that, motion is to receive, adopt, and confirm Patty Devine to the DPW. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes would have it. 33C, the Committee on Public Service was referred in order that the leadership of the Holyoke Rural Park and Recs Director develop a plan to allow more youngsters and a chance to participate in the summer program. That this has been complied with. So motion to receive, adopt, discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor McGee. Yes. Yeah, so it's interesting. So I remember years ago when we voted, when the city council voted to allow this to happen, there's 11 miles of the Connecticut River that aligns to Holyoke, and there's only one public area that you can get into the Connecticut River, which I thought was amazing. So we do have this Holyoke Rose, and I'll turn this over to Terry in 2 seconds. But the interesting thing is, this is a great program, and it fills up so fast. And Councilor Murphy wants to have, people to be able to afford to go and row. And I get that. And it's a good idea. And basically it was supply and demand. They were charging $100 because they were filling up so fast. And one of the things I think that we should do is maybe Holyoke people come first than other communities. That's one of the ideas I would like to see. But having said all that, I'll turn it over to Terry. Thank you, or Councilor Murphy.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Councilor Leahy. I thought it was a very informative meeting. I got some great ideas. I would like to see the school, especially knowing the need of activities for kids this summer after all we've been through. I'm hoping that when we get some of the money from the Recovery Act that's going to education, that part of that might be able to have our kids be able to get into some of these programs and take advantage of the river, get out and get some exercise, be out in fresh air. So I'm looking at doing that and seeing if I can work with Mr. Soto and others to get that done. And also in terms of just the recreation department, and see if we can't add some programs there, and maybe we can do a few things to add more opportunities for the Holyoke kids. And it is, in some cases, it is an economic hardship, and we got to try to make sure that as many kids get out there and have a chance to enjoy the river. And it is I see people rowing. If I were looking out right now and there was lights out there, I might see people rowing. But it's a good activity. It's a healthy activity, and they run a good program. I just want to try to see if we can get more Holyoke kids involved, and some kind of subsidy, if you will, from the schools might be able to do that. And we could have a program for each school. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Leahy, for a good meeting.
Councilor McGivern. On mute still.
Sorry, hit the wrong button. It's a fantastic program. I think it's money was well spent when we took some private entity off the tax rolls, but it didn't matter because we got everything back from it. I think this is a good order to expand the use and the opportunity for everyone in the city of Holyoke to be able to use this very limited space. Councilor Lacey hit it right on the nail. We have 11 miles on the Connecticut River, and this.
I'm sorry. Can I point of information?
Councilor Lacey.
Councilor Lacey. Councilor,
I don't know who Lacey is, but Lacey's certainly not here. Thank you, Councilor McGinty.
We're going to file an ordinance to change your name, Jim.
I think we're going to do a
No, we won't.
I'm sorry, James.
Leahy's much better than Lacey, I can tell you that.
And I was giving you a compliment. Will you at least?
Yeah, I worked with a couple of Lacey's. Come on.
Just real quick, you go to South Hadley, there's at least 6-7 spots where you can get into the Connecticut River, between the marinas, between the public and the private access to the river itself, the lookouts. It's incredible. And in Holyoke, I've always had a dream, and we'll probably never be able to accomplish it because it'd be too expensive to get over the railroad tracks, but was to make a marina at Log Pond Cove. But in the meantime, we have, this program, we have this access to the river, which anyone can use, not just Holyoke Rose. And with this order, I think we got the beginnings of making sure everybody has the opportunity to use it, despite income challenges. Thank you. Sorry, Jim.
See, no one further motion is receive, adopt. That's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? There's no DGNR. There's no joint committee. So we're on to motions, orders, and resolutions. So first one is from Councilor Vacan, order that the end of Rock Valley Road from Southampton Road as you proceed to Southampton Road is impassable. It needs to be repaired and resurfaced as soon as possible. So that would be receive, adopt, send to DPW.
Refer to DPW, please.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Could I make a comment on that, Mr. President?
Sure.
Because I
Go ahead, Councilor Murphy.
One of the other things I had asked Cinder about was the potential of us bonding to do our road and sidewalk repairs. That we have a 5-year plan, and this is, as I understand it, this is on year 2 of the plan. One of the things that I asked is it possible that we could bond in anticipation of the Chapter 90 so that we could get more work done, not waiting through the 5 years. And I did get a response indicating that that does look like that's a possibility. And if that is, I would like to, and one of the things that we would get pretty close to the 5 years that we're planning with Chapter 90 funding, but bond for it and hopefully get the work done in maybe 18 months so that we're not waiting 3, 4, 5 years. And this, like I said, I know this road right now is looking pretty bad, and we would have a chance potentially to get it from year 2 to maybe this fall and start to move. So that's one thing I am working. I just got, it was during the meeting, I just got an email from her saying that this is a possibility. So I will now further look into that.
Thank you.
So that one was sent to DPW. 38 is from Councilor Bacon. Parking on Route 202 near the Appalachian Trail sign is creating a safety hazard. Invite in conservation, state, and other parties to meet with regards to removing trail signs and roads where no parking or where parking is prohibited. So public safety.
Thank you. I'd like to refer this to public safety because the parking only started after the signage was put in, and I'm hoping to locate safe parking areas for the
Okay,
hiker.
so
Thank you.
So receive, sent to public safety
Public
with
safety.
a copy to the appropriate parties. All those
Yes.
in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 39 from Councilor Bacon, order that the start date be determined and provided by DPW for the Sunset Ashley Road project that was approved by the City Council in 2019.
Receive, adopt, and send to DPW and copy to our acting mayor Murphy, who I know is working on it. Thank you.
Receive,
Mr.
adopt.
President,
Yeah,
Mr.
Councilor
President.
Granny. Yep.
With the maker's permission, could I be added to that order?
Sure, Howie.
Thank you.
Adding Councilor Granny. So receive, adopt, send to DPW and a copy to the mayor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 40 is from Councilor Bacon that the acting mayor and city council president present a plan and target date for opening city hall, resuming city council at city hall.
Yes. Receive, adopt, and refer to you guys.
Receive, adopt,
And
us.
acting mayor Murphy gave us an update. I mean, he's like really ahead of the curve. Thank you.
Councilor McGivern.
President, I'd like this to be considered to be put into committee for discussion so we can participate in the plan for both the opening of City Hall and the safe opening of the City Council chambers. More important, the safe opening to allow people to come into the City Council chambers as required by law. And
I'm open to referring to public service.
Public service or public safety? Which one do you want?
Either. Well, maybe they can both go to safety. I mean, either way.
All right, so to public safety, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 41 is from Councilor Bartley that the city of Holyoke ordain a no left turn sign on the former Kmart Plaza from Whiting Road. As background, the sign was installed years ago. HPD issued many tickets, and judge has dismissed this because Holyoke never ordained it. So it would be referred to ordinance and legal department for legal language.
Yep, so moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 42 is from Councilor Bartley. That's DPW install an age appropriate sign with autism living near 236 South Street. This is considered a request referred to DPW with a copy to the Disability Commission.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Second.
Aye.
All those opposed? 43 is from Councilor Bartley. Order that the Disabilities Commission for the city of Holyoke consider creating signage that is age appropriate for residents who require it. For example, a sign that reads slow autistic children is not appropriate for a person in her mid-30s. Holyoke can and should be a leader in this regard. Referred to Public Safety Committee and copies to Disability Commission, DPW, and acting mayor.
So moved.
All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? 44 is from Councilor McGivern.
Take a motion to suspend the rules, Mr. President.
Yep.
Take up as a package items 44, 48, 49, and 51, and refer to the Committee on Finance.
Second.
Motion to suspend rules, take up 44, 49, 48, 49, 51 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed. 44 is appropriation by borrowing 1.216,500 to purchase DPW and fire department vehicles. 48 is taking $1,403 from senior planning to Connecticut River Channel marker. 49 is 689 from aide to mayor to city solicitor. And 51 is 21,000 from court, or 21,569 from court to, and there's a list of things. So all those to finance, all those in favor. Oh, Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, just under 44, please.
Let me go back. Go ahead, Councilor Bartley.
So no, I want to just make a friendly amendment to. I want to. All items go to the mayor, but I want to specifically say refer this to the acting mayor. I also want to refer it to bond counsel. So that's my motion.
All right. So motion is to receive, send to finance with referring to the acting mayor and to bond counsel for 44.
That's my motion. Yeah.
All those in favor? Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
Yeah. So this is the order. This is the order that now they can't get around it, right? So they have to come back to us whenever they amend the bond issue that we passed numerous years ago. It was humbly named after me, but who cares? It just cannot go back and just amend these things willy-nilly. It has to come back to city council. So I'm very curious as to what exactly, I mean, this is really open-ended on this. So I'm going to want to hear from the acting mayor. I'm also going to want to hear from bond counsel on this. Now we can have more discussion in committee, but that's why I made those amendments. It's just it's a little loosey-goosey for my flavor, but I'm sure we'll hear more. But I just want to point that out to the body. Thank you.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I'm just going back to 49. Wasn't that one of the orders that's supposed to be looked at tonight for the pay of the solicitor to start tomorrow, or no?
Well, I think there's money in the budget to start. It would just have to be approved to finalize.
Okay,
everything.
No problem.
Councilor Hernandez.
Mr. President, quickly, this is just to let you know that I've been informed that people that are watching the meeting on Channel 15, it just was muted and they can't hear. They can't hear us. So is that something that they can look into, Holyoke Media or something?
Yeah, Jeffrey and Holyoke Media, just a heads up, we're being muted on the access channel.
I'll reach out to Scott right now.
Thank you.
Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two things. As far as the acting mayor goes, this is filed on behalf of the acting mayor. I just want to point that out. And we certainly will have, in this particular acting mayor next to me is always at the finance committee meeting anyways, and I'm sure we'll have him there. Second of all, this is exactly what the amendment language, the language that we add to the bonds, the purpose of it is that you don't, if you save some money on what you propose to do and there's some other money there and you think you still have a good plan to make, to use it, you have to come back. And that's all it is. And I think the department head is going to explain it. We may agree with it, we may disagree with it, but that's the purpose of the language, and that's why it's before us going to committee for discussion.
Right. So that is going to finance with a copy of the acting mayor and bond counsel. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Off to finance. We now have.
If I could suspend the rules, Mr. President, again.
Yep.
And to take up as a package items 45, 46, 47, and 50.
Motion to suspend the rules, take up 45, 46, 47, and 50. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 45 is $15,173.35 from lieutenants, patrolmen to injured on duty. 46 is from $4,391.81 from firefighters to injured on duty. 47 is $14,269.07, sorry, from patrolmen, lieutenants, and sergeants to injured on duty. And 50 is $3,618.96 from firefighter to injured on duty. This is the standard accounting procedure. For 45, 5 people. 46, 2, 47, 5 people. 50, 2 people. So motion be to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion,
As
Councilor
you
McGivern.
stated, Mr. President, it's standard accounting for the purpose of recognizing these safety officials who were injured on duty, still getting paid, of course, but not available to perform service. I believe that, and maybe you can correct me, but I believe the reason we have more than usual is we skipped a couple pay periods at one of the last 2 meetings that we had. And I think we're just catching up in time to some different pay periods for both
Correct.
the police and fire department.
Yep. So, for passing the first reading, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for all 4.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Rainey,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy. Yes. LeBrun Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Muted.
Lisi,
Muted.
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
At your vote, you approve those. On to late files. Late file from myself, one that we give a proclamation to Noelia Cologne from the clerk's office, having a retirement date at the end of May for over 20 years of service to the city of Holyoke. Make a motion to receive, adopt, take final action tonight to get that proclamation.
Almo, please have my name.
Second.
Adding all,
Everybody.
adding everyone.
Yes. Well deserved.
So
Yes.
all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Next late files from myself. I was contacted by the legal department. They wanted to get out to us the Mackenzie Stadium lease agreement. So you should have gotten a copy. If you haven't, we'll make sure you did get a copy, but there needs to be action on that. So we have to get it out to you now so you can review it and then take it up. So I refer to finance.
Second.
For lease agreement. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? From Counselor Leahy, an order that we contact for Lynch School, the bricks to be saved for commemorating the school. Probably DPW to reach out to that, Counselor?
Yeah, I would, yes, please receive and also send a copy to our acting mayor, Mr. Murphy, and also the Department of Public Works. I think we should get a couple pallets of those where we could do some sort of fundraiser for some charity. And I know a lot of people would like those, all the people that went to the school and whatnot.
All right, so motion is to take up final action tonight on D. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And that is to request that pallets of bricks be saved from the Lynch project. Motion is receive, adopt, and send a copy to DPW and the acting mayor.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Councilman McGivern, are you filing late file orders?
Mr. President, with all due respect to the discussion earlier, I would like to change my mind unless people talk me out of this and hang our hat on what the legal opinion is going to be and let the acting mayor decide whatever happens in the future, what he wishes to do.
All right. So with that, there are no further late files. We are caught up on everything. If I missed something, there was a lot of jumbling tonight. And I apologize for, I dropped a lot of the papers on the floor. That's why I had to go off camera to kind of shuffle back up. But thank you for your allowing me to do that. Everyone, motion would be to adjourn, but I hope everyone has a wonderful night.
Everybody have a
Motion
great,
to adjourn.
great
All
week.
those in favor?
Good
All
seeing you guys.
opposed? Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.